Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back in to the Racekraft Simulations V8 Veterans action here for Season 24, Round 8 for the Split 2 action out at Shell V-Power Motorsport Park this evening. Also known as The Bend, as 300Ks calls our name. 61 laps of the second longest permanent race course in the world. These V8 Veterans drivers will traverse this place with tenacity, caution, and with a little bit of gusto as well. Hamish Munro here with you tonight, alongside me once again, Scotty Gamble here in the booth. Scotty, how are you, first of all? Secondly, we stopped our streak last week. We had gone 6 from 6 up to the Hockenheim ring, and then we went out to Jerez last week for some wet action. We saw our first multi-time winner for the season in Halil Cesar, the championship leader. We come into the Bend tonight, and if he can make it 2 in a row, it's really going to extend out his lead.
How you going, Hamish? And thanks for having me on board again, and welcome to those tuning into the YouTube chat tonight. What a great night to be in here. The Bend, isn't it great to be here? It's our first time here in Vets, and yeah, it's a recent addition to the iRacing service, and a welcome one too. But as far as the championship goes, isn't it? It just amazes me how close it is here in Split 2. Like you were saying, 6 different winners so far over the 7 rounds, with Halil Cesar being the only multiple winner. So really, it's up in the air. Anyone could do it, and there's so many that are getting in the hunt for the championship. 2 drop rounds on offer. This is round 8. Things are starting to heat up in the V8 Veterans Split 2 Championship.
Well, currently 36 points separates our three front runners this season. They've been the three front runners all season long, that being the championship leader Halil Cesar on 892 points, Brad Doble on 883 points, 9 points back off of him, and then Rob Crisdale on 856 points, who's a further 27 points back. I've mentioned all season, Scotty, that a win for Rob Crisdale will reignite his championship. It'll bring him that little bit closer to both Brad Doble and to Halil Cesar. And after the claim that I made at the start of the season that 2 wins will win you the title, well, Rob needs to make that first step, needs to get his first one. We've only got 2 rounds to go after tonight in Masano and Okayama across the next 2 weeks. So it's crunch time for Rob. If he can't win tonight, Scotty, I don't think he can win the championship.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? The Frog Leap Juice Racing team, they've had a bit of a resurgence this season, not only in Split 2 with Rob Crisdale, but also in Split 1 and a couple of the other splits. So those drivers throughout that team are driving extremely well. I think they'll have a lot of support behind Robert, especially here at the Bend. He knows what's at stake. He's been around for a long time, Hamish, as you know. And I'm sure he's worked out all the math and has it all down pat what he needs to do. And if memory serves me right, he's been setting some pretty good times here at the Bend.
He has indeed. He's been incredibly quick throughout practice all week. And as he heads into qualifying, he could be the favourite to take pole position here this evening at the Bend. A few ones for you that have changed coming into tonight's race. So they made an adjustment in the sup regs leading up to the race tonight. It was supposed to be a 70% tank capacity, which gets you to about 93 litres. They changed that to 100% tank capacity, so now we can go up to 133, which opens the strategy a little bit for tonight's race. It means that you can pit before lap 16 and make it home on a 2-stop. You're not forced into a 3-stop strategy scenario if you were to do that here tonight, but you've got to go a long way on tyres. And this track has been killing the left-hand side tyres of these cars all throughout practice all week. So that's going to be a tough task for them as well. Critical lap tonight. Well, it's a pretty close basis of lap 29, you're guaranteed to get home. Lap 28, you've got to save roughly 0.6 of a litre to get home. It's possible. You're capable of doing it with so many laps until the end, but it's a long stint to get home from that point as well. The other change is, unfortunately, we had a server issue with all the servers this week. You would have noticed in our broadcast for Split 1 over on Simspeed, Split 4 here on the Vets channel, and Split 3 as well, that there were rolling starts. It's the same situation for Split 2, so we're getting a rolling start going for the endurance race here tonight. I don't hate it. I actually think it's pretty cool to have a rolling start for an endurance race. Just personally, I think that should actually be a permanent thing that gets put in for the 300k races in future, but that is just my opinion. Let's have a quick look, though, at the track map here tonight. Scotty, of course, we're running the international layout, which is run by V8 Supercars in real life here in Tailem Bend. We're not too far away from Adelaide. You can see there Port Augusta, a couple of hours north, as well as Mildura back over in Victoria as well. But as we trickle our way on down to what has colloquially been called Dave Baldock's home race by the V8 Vets community, we transfer into having a beautiful look at this circuit here in Tailem Bend. Opened back in 2019 on the 13th of January by the Saheen family. 18 turns, 4.9 kilometres. It's nearly a 2-minute lap time around this place. You go on the full circuit, it's over 7 kilometres, and it's over 3 minutes for a lap time here for the full course here at Tailem Bend. We start on the main straight, though, and run it up towards turn 1, where this first little section, Scotty, could be tricky, not only early on in the race, but even later in the race as the tyre degradation becomes a big factor, and it's a section where we could see some cars ending up off track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about your braking point, your turning point, and being able to rotate that rear end with this 80 litres of fuel that the drivers have got on board tonight as we head on through turn 2. Again, you're looking at the curbs. You're trying to find a little bit of mid-track, so that will open up turn 3, allow you to get on the power. These big V8s, they love to get on the power in a straight line. You're uphill, you're slightly off camber at turn 3. So very, very crucial to line it up all the way as you send it through turn 4. If that is even a turn, it's a little bit of a kink. But turn 5 is an interesting one, Hamish. It was one of the most favourite corners for me on this track. I think it's a favourite among drivers. You get that right, you get the accelerator right, you get a slight drift, and gee, you can absolutely fly around that corner. And that is one of these corners that sets sets the Bend apart to many of the other racetracks we visited this season.
Well, when we get down to the hard braking zone of turn 6, Scotty, that's where we could see some early carnage, cars going for overtakes early in this lap. It's one of the first major overtaking opportunities on lap 1. As the race goes on, turn 1 is going to become a overtaking opportunity as well, but this is one of our big heavy braking zones down at turn 6. If you can run through there easily, you then head into the triple right-hander of turn 7, 8 and 9, and then into the braking zone at turn 10, where again, if you can somehow hang it out there and hang on to the car alongside or ahead of you, you can get a move done at turn 10. It's very difficult to, but it is possible. You then run up through 11 and 12 as well, where we then run past what can only be described as a nipple on the side of the track, Scotty, where the international circuit meets the international. You can't unsee it. As you drive past it, you'll see it. We'll see it here tonight as well. But you got to try and perfect your run out of 12, just so you can kind of tuck up behind at 13 to set yourself up for a move under brakes down at turn 14, which is probably one of your next major overtaking zones of this place. But there is one more further along, which can be a little bit more dangerous and a little bit more explosive.
Yeah, absolutely. As you cycle around turn 15, just managing the throttle, managing the tyre wear at this stage, because it does creep in. Even on your one hot lap, you do have to manage your tyres. Do you go early? Do you go late? If you went late, you've got grip underneath you as you head through 16. Coming up to turn 17, probably the most difficult corner to get right on this track. It is not 90 degrees. It's a little bit more than that, and it catches a lot of drivers out on whether to go back into second or take it in third gear. And if you do you run wide? Very difficult corner, and that will be one to watch tonight to see how much debris gets thrown back on track from that turn, Hamish. As we head up to turn 18, the last turn of this track. And if you get it close on the inside, you can get on the accelerator. You can get it really wide. You're almost in pit lane and you're still turning to get up the straight. Something to watch tonight. Those who dive into pit lane, those who are behind that don't want to go into pit lane, they're going to have to watch, and there could be incidents there unless drivers are well aware of that situation as you head down and head over the short start-finish line to complete your lap.
Yeah, I think pit exit's going to be a factor, as you said. Drivers going to have to be cautious of that as they traverse turn 18. But pit entry, sorry, I should say. But pit exit's also going to be a struggle as well, because you actually rejoin right onto the racing line. So you've got to keep your wits about you, keep your eye in the mirror, make sure you can see any cars coming if they are coming. And if you see some traffic coming or you watch your relative, just say, hey, I'm exiting pit lane. Just so you're letting them know and keeping them aware. And the drivers coming down the straight have got to be cautious as well and keep an eye out for cars exiting pit lane, because we don't want to have a scenario where someone comes out of pits and someone just drills straight into the back of them down towards turn 1. The braking zone is right at the blue cone at the exit of pit lane as well. So that there could lead to some big trouble here tonight for some drivers. For others as well, they're going to have to be cautious in dealing with those issues out on circuit. As we run on into our warm-up session here tonight, we've got a couple of minutes left before we grid up for the start of this race as well, Scotty. And at this stage of the season, we've got the unknown of tonight, obviously the Bend, brand new to Vets landscape, 300 Ks. It's a tough circuit. It's a long circuit. It's a really, it's basically, in the world of racing circuits, it's brand new pretty much. It's one of the newest built, or purpose-built race circuits in the world. One of the highest quality as well, hosting a multitude of events, including obviously the Australian Supercars Championship, as well as the Australian GT Championship and Intercontinental GT Challenge too. It's going to be a good test tonight. Next week at Misano, another new circuit. Bit more GT style than the Bend, I would say, Scotty. But still going to be a good test for these drivers. And then Okayama, an old favourite of ours. One where you disconnected in the past under safety car, rejoined the server, and stayed on the lead lap somehow, and then you went on to win the race. So you know what it's like to get success out at Okayama. We're going to be racing there in the final round.
Yeah, it is an interesting finish to the final round, Okayama. That is one that is well-versed within the V8 Veterans. We all know it, but we've got to get through the Bend tonight. And like you said, Hamish, a new track next week in Misano. The Bend, it's one of these tracks I think it's going to become a very much a favourite amongst the V8 veteran community, mainly because of the tyre wear. The tyre wear here is something that is, it is quite dramatic. It really is something that can change your race, and how drivers manage that tonight, along with their fuel load. So that's going to be something I'll be very interested in. For me, a strategy for me was to manage that with the fuel load, hit a number. hit a fuel number that sets a good time and try and be consistent within a tenth or two of that for the whole race. That was my strategy. I'd be interested to see how other drivers go about it, whether they go hard out of the blocks or whether they be a little bit conservative so they've got the tyres under them come the end of their stint.
Well, the warm-up session comes to an end, and we look to get gridded up here for race start for round 8 of the season here tonight. Starting grid for which will be as follows. Rob Crisdale will start pole position alongside Lorne Mackay on the front row, with Shane Randall out-qualifying his championship-leading teammate Halil Cesar to P3 here tonight. He'll start alongside Cesar's championship rival of Brad Doble in P4. It'll then be Halil and Mick Clifton for our top 6, with Dave Arney, Darren Crosby our top 8, Chris Blanchard, Damon Fisher makes up the top 10. How enticing is that top 5 going to be? The top 3 of the championship all starting inside of the top 5 here tonight. You love to see it. It's what a crescendo it could be to the end of this season. Mark Out and Rick Viger then just missing out on a top 10 start here this evening, as they'll start on the 6th row ahead of Scott McKenzie and Robbie Griffiths for our top 14. Reese Degoe, Paul Burns will then start ahead of Wade Reynolds and Todd Duggan, with Matt Stoyles and Tim Mulford making up the top 20. Mario Reali will start alongside Ben Brook, with Bruce Tannock really down on pace this week. He'll start from P23. Could be a tough 300 case for him, starting alongside Derek Lovegrove for our top 24. The rest of our grid then, we've got Brett Taylor, Matt Monday, Sean Cullen and Brett O'Brien making up the top 28 positions. Matt Scholes not getting a time here in qualifying. He'll make up the 29th spot. Our race controllers once again, Tom Freeman, David Coleman, and I believe Jamie Dyke was one of the race stewards as well. But it's going to be a tough night on the road for these drivers. The rolling start scenario here, Scotty, which caught them out as they joined the server, is really going to favour those drivers who've done a lot of sports car, prototype or GT racing in the past, because they will be no stranger to following the iRacing safety car around for a lap prior to getting this race started. It will also affect the fuel numbers as well, because all of a sudden they have to do a full lap of this track under the safety car. That'll drop them a couple of litres, and that will adjust the fuel strategy of some of the drivers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this will play into Rob Crisdale's hand. He is a little bit of a driver of the GT3s or GTEs. I have seen him in those cars before. So I think he'll understand exactly what's going on. But it may catch out some of the drivers about when to go, when to start, when do you start racing when that safety car comes in. It's an interesting one, I can tell you. I was a little confused myself when we seen it in Split 1, and I was trying to remember exactly how I went about the process of going under the iRacing safety car rolling start procedure. But I do like it, Hamish. I know you like it. I think this is a great addition to an enduro. Perhaps we might see some more of this in the future. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how these drivers, especially those that may get checked up from like P5, P6 backwards.
Well, speaking of enduros, we have seen a draft calendar for season 25 on the Over 40s broadcast earlier in the week. Now, we'll discuss it a bit later on, of course. We're going to be here for a little while tonight, 300Ks at the Bend. We're going to be here for at least the next 2 hours or so, calling the action for you, and we're bound to get some sort of a lull period. But penciled in at the moment is the endurance race for next season. Retro round out at Bathurst for round 2. Rolling start at Bathurst could be a fun time. Can make it really interesting into turn 1, Scotty, in when drivers go, and could put a lot more onus on qualifying position than it currently would be if we were to do a standing start out of Mount Panorama.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be an interesting one. I don't think I've ever done a rolling start at Bathurst before, so that would be something to look forward to, perhaps. An interesting one here. I know that these drivers, they would be on the clutch trying to save fuel here. It's basically a free lap they're going to get under their belts, and will allow them to go a little bit longer, Hamish, so you can save fuel, you get an extra lap, perhaps you get that extra bonus lap as well from saving the fuel. So interesting one. You mentioned it in the in your early brief that it did change those fuel numbers. I think V8 Vets, they also opened it up to 100% tank.
Yep.
To be able to give a little bit more strategy in it. Perhaps tyres may affect strategy anyway, because I'd imagine most people go for a 2-stopper. Hamish, what do you think? Would anyone risk a 3-stop tonight?
I think unless you are at the back of the field, there is no... Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I think the only worth in risking a 3-stop there's two. It's A, if you're one of the fastest cars on track and you can make up the 45 seconds that you would lose in pit lane with fresh tyres, or there's a safety car. They're the only two scenarios I see where it's worth risking a 3-stop strategy. And in saying that, we'd have to get a safety car before lap 28 or 29, and either before or after, so it'd have to be before lap 10, so within the first 10 laps, or after lap 19. So there's two little 10 lap windows where if we got a safety car, you're going for a 3-stop. If it's between lap 11 and lap 19, you can make it on a 2-stop strategy. So if that does happen, if we're going to get 3 stops, it's going to be from lap 1 to lap 10, or lap 20 to lap 20. I would arguably say lap 27 is the latest that you can see that happening, because lap 28, if we got a safety car, you only need to save 0.6 of a litre to get home. That's pretty easy to do under a safety car, especially at a long track like this, Scotty. So they're the only two I could see it happening. But again, you've got to have the pace to match it. So guys like Crisdale, Mackay, Doble, Cesar, Randall may be able to, but he's struggled with race pace this season. So I'd say Cesar, Doble, Mackay, Crisdale, maybe Bruce Tannock if he can find some lap pace further back in the field. They're the drivers who I could see pulling off a 3-stop here tonight.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think perhaps the favoured stop will be go as long as you can in this first stint, pray that there isn't a safety car, get on those 80 to 90 litres of fuel for your next stop, and hopefully you can go green, run another 20-odd laps, and then 21 laps or 20 laps from home, maybe do your final pit stop and run it that way, just to preserve the tyres. There will be a few few things bouncing around, but we're just about ready to go green, and the safety car is going into pit lane now.
Safety car's in. Green flag will fly at Tailem Bend as we go racing for 300 Ks in South Australia for the first time in Split 2 as Crisdale gets a hot start off the line. Randall did well as well, already up into P2 on the road now. Mackay looks to be under pressure from the surging pack in behind him as the championship contenders of Cesar and Doble battle it out for P4 on the road as well. Look at the scrambling for position though between this massive pack of cars as they run down through turn 3, but we've got to keep an eye on turn 6, Scotty, because that is where it can really heat up.
Yeah, absolutely. There was cars going 4 wide into turn 1 and 3 wide into turn 2 and 3. That was absolutely fantastic. They all got through unscathed. A little bit of smoke there. We see a car just running wide. Looks like that's Mark Helton, who has gone off the track a little bit. I'm not sure whether he was helped or not.
Bruce Tannock and Paul Burns, sorry to interrupt you there, Scotty, have had a bit of contact down at 6. Tannock was spun round. They've gotten going again, but couple of knots to massage out, I would say, at this stage of the race, but they look to get into their rhythm.
Yeah, that's one driver, Bruce Tannock. He has gone to last on the field. Let's see how he goes through this field. And Paul Burns, both very fast drivers on their day. So I'll be watching that one for sure to see how they manage to get through this field and how drivers go about navigating them coming through.
Mark Houghton just dropping a few more spots as well, struggling for pace at the moment. Hopefully he can get back into his strides and make up some more spots. He's down 9 positions at the moment. Want to see Mark do well here tonight, so hopefully he can get a good run of it as well. Rob Crisdale, though, well, he leads the way as we enter up towards turn 17. 1 corner to go before he's led a full lap of Tailem Bend. He's got Shane Randall hot on his heels. Yet to take a win in Split 2 is Shane. Same for Rob. In fact, in all of Shane's career, the highest he's finished is P2. He'd love his first win on the board here at Tailem Bend. But Rob wants it on. He wants his first on the board because it's very important to his championship challenge that he wins the race. And with only 2 rounds after tonight, he needs the win here at Tailem Bend.
Yeah, as we've seen Shane get a little bit loose on the sand there where the pit entry is, and he's really pushing at the moment. He knows how important it is to be able to go with Robert Crisdale to help his teammate, who is in the championship hunt, Halal Caesar, who's had a little bit of a look on the outside of Lorne Mackay. Probably not the place to do it there, but he's showing good early pace. This is good signs for that Cooler Master car who was our round winner last week.
He probably couldn't have asked for a better starting position for his teammate tonight for Shane Randall. I mean, if they can't keep up with Crisdale's pace, the best thing that Randall can do is be the blockade to stop any cars from getting past, to then hopefully give Halil not only an opportunity to get past the car in between them, but then actually hold them back if he does let Halil go and stride forward. So it could be some interesting team strategies at play here tonight for those guys as well. Good to see Chris Blanchard inside the top 10 as well here for WKMP, and for Dave Arney too for Pacific Esports Racing. Both drivers with a lot of ability, and they would love to seat themselves a podium here tonight if the opportunity does arise. And often what we get, Scotty, with these 300k races, as we've seen before, you might get a couple of surprise entries in up and amongst not only the top 5 finishing positions, but the top 3 as well. So Arnie and Blanchard and even Rick Viger and Damon Fisher, they're in a good position tonight because they could sneak forward if drivers make mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rick's been driving very, very well this season. I know he's had a couple there, but, races that he probably could have done a little bit better. But overall, I think it's been one of his better seasons, and it's good to see him up 4 positions into P8 tonight. So he's put himself up there with a chance. Like you mentioned, Blanchard, really good start by him in WKMP, but I was also impressed by Wade Reynolds. He got from JWM Simsport. He was actually up 6 positions. Darren Crosby just took that position back. But yeah, 5 positions for Wade Reynolds at the start line as we are on lap 3. I think is a really good result. He'd be happy with that start. Yeah,
Wade's doing a really good job. Very solid season thus far. Not likely to go up to split 1 next season, but he can really start to build just a nice groundwork for himself and JWM Motorsports this season as well. There's a couple of these cars in this split this season, and if they can get into their stride for season 25, they could be some challenges up the front end of town as well. Pacific Esports Racing number 17 in the chat with us. G'day lads, let's go Arnie the Pelicanator in P6. Dave's doing a really good job tonight, and really hungry for a podium. We'll see how he goes. It's good to see him though up towards the front end of town here, Scotty. It's a little bit of a different name in amongst this top 10, but good to see him having a good fight on the road here this evening as well. For Crisdale though, I mean, he is steamrolling ahead, 2.5 seconds above Shane Randall now, with Mackay, Cesar, Doble and Cohen behind them. So Shane becoming a little bit of a cork in the bottle to this whole battle pack on his heels at this stage. And the best thing that Halil Cesar can do right now is get past Lorne Mackay and try and work with his teammate to build a bit more of a gap to this battle pack so they take the pressure off themselves for the early stages of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know what it's like when you get a bit of a group behind you. There is a fair bit of pressure, but there is quite a train developing, and some of these drivers may have gone into fuel-saving mode, but that has allowed Robert to absolutely check out at the moment. Something that I find interesting with this, Hamish, is you are in that championship contention. Caesar, he knows it. He needs to show a little bit of maturity here. He's in P4. Lorne Mackay's quite quick. He's had a couple of little looks at Randall to make path if an opening has. How would you approach it, and what would his team? I know you're part of that, so it'd be interesting to hear the inside information. As we see Randall go a little bit wide, he's become vulnerable to Mackay, and I think Mackay may get this position done at our favourite turn 5. Randall's got the inside, he slides it in there nicely. That opens it up for allow Caesar to have the inside as we head into 6. If he can hold this here, that will be a position gain. It's going to be tricky on exit. That is everything. He's got this right-hander, this whole bunch of right-handers coming up where it's all about flow, all about momentum. See that front shake, Hamish. He has got the job done. What an excellent move by Halal Caesar up into P3.
Yeah, they banged doors there, it seemed, through 7, 8 and 9. Somehow he got the job done. He's had a couple of postman-style sends this season where he's licked the stamp and he's had a crack, and he's pulled it off once again here this evening. Battle will continue on now. We'll see, though, if Halil can get past Shane, if Shane wants to let him go. I do know that, Halil is the type of driver that he doesn't necessarily want Shane to hinder his race too much, although running it wide there's not going to help him. Massive slide of rears there for the Cooler Master entry. And now he's under pressure from Mackay and behind him. He doesn't want Shane to hinder his own race to let him pass. He wants to do it where they can do it cleanly without giving up position for the 501 car. So trying to find that around here is, well, that's going to be about as hard as finding a needle in a haystack, Scotty, because it's very difficult to not give up pace when you're letting somebody past you around here. And with that hungry pack of cars behind them, it'll seem almost impossible for them to do it. They probably need a good 1.5 second gap back to Mackay just to get that job done.
That is an interesting one, how you'd go about helping your teammate if they chose to. Wasn't that an interesting thing where Brad Doble from Shadow Racing, he actually had a real good look at Law Mackay then. Law was nearly on to lose 2 positions within that lap. That's how close the racing is. So these guys here, they make that little bit of a mistake, run that little bit wide, you become vulnerable, you overheat those tyres, especially those left-hand side, the left rear, your driving tyre. And yeah, that put him under, put Lorne under attack from Brad Doble there just for half a second.
You see as well in the background, Reece Segoe looking at a move on Mick Clifton as well. So there's a bit more of a battle happening amongst this train. Look at how long the train is at the moment. It goes all the way back to Tim Mulford from, well, pretty much the front of the train is Halil Cesar, because his teammate Shane Randall's built up around about a 1.3 second gap now. And then it's a further nearly 3.8 seconds, about 3.7, up to Crisdale in P1. So this train's only getting longer and longer, and it's only becoming tougher and tougher for cars in behind. Brad Doble just sneaking a look at Mackay there, wasn't quite ready to go for it down at, I believe that there was turn 13, but maybe trying to set something up for later on in the piece. But they've got to conserve these tyres, Scotty. They've got to try and make them work for them. You mentioned the strategy earlier, go as long as possible on this first stint. That'll take you to around about lap 19, and then you can either split it and go 21 laps for the next 2 stints, or you could fill your car, make it a bit of a longer stint towards the midpoint of this race, and then do a nice short stint to the end where you've got fresh tyres, light fuel, and a fast race car.
It'll be an interesting one to see how they manage it and whether a safety car would change that up a little bit. But at the moment, Robert Crisdale, he's absolutely flying. He's 4 seconds ahead. Randall's managed to get that little bit of a gap back to his teammate there in Halal Caesar. And then Lorne Mackay, he's still fighting. He's still hanging on to Caesar, but he hasn't seemed to go. As we see him move up the inside here, has he got it done? It looks like Mick Clifton there, and he goes up 1 position. He's still down 6 from where he started, but he's going to put all sorts of friendly pressure on Wade Brennan.
Yeah, he wants to try and hang with him, does the rock star Mick Clifton here, as he continues to apply pressure to the JWM Mustang up ahead of him. You had a question earlier in the chat, Scotty, from John Gallen, just asking what your brake bias area was for this race this past Thursday here at the Bend. I know some drivers normally run the stock of around about 64, and others try and make it a little bit lower than that, as Todd Duggan and Tim Mulford have made some contact here. I think Mulford's actually waiting to allow Todd past him just to redress the position, but there still could be a possible drive-through penalty coming his way, just based on how many positions Todd's lost here from that incident.
Yeah, that's great to see Mulford wait. You know, he obviously recognised that was his fault, but there was a lot of positions lost, and you would expect race control to be having a look at that. But to answer your question, and thank you very much, John Gallen, for asking that. And by all means, if any of you guys out there watching, or girls, have any questions, put them in the chat. But for me, an interesting story with it, Hamish, was I started this race and I messed up my brake bias. So I had it at 64.3. I actually meant to have it at 63.4. I don't know why some sort of dyslexia came in at that stage, but I really did struggle towards the end of the stint, especially on my front left. I'd used it up and I was vulnerable. And we've seen Paul Young, he actually made quite a lot of gains on me towards the end of the stint. Coming to the pit stops, I realised my mistake, wound it back down to around about that 63.4, 63.2 area there, John. And I was able to manage the next stint, or the next 21 laps, a lot better. So that brake bias at the Bend, a little bit more rearward than the stock of 64.5, that helped me out.
Well, I think, you know, one of the big things we noticed this week as well, Scotty, was obviously that front left tyre was copping all of the load around here, how quickly it would wear away. And I wonder what the tyre game is going to be like for some drivers tonight if they do run a long middle stint of the race, and how that could affect not only their car but their pace as well. I think one other factor that drivers will need to remember tonight too is if they decide to heavy fill the car, they need to try and plan around where they will end up in the train, because you don't want to end up buried in the field from taking the larger fuel load and unable to make overtakes on track, because it's such a tough track to make overtakes at that if you are buried, you could give up more and more time ahead of you, which takes away any advantage that you may have for taking the longer pit stop in that first pit stop cycle. So, be interesting how the strategy plays out tonight. It's going to be a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That front left was the one that really hurt me. Yes, the rear left iRacing spotter come up a couple of times, especially in the middle stint there, letting me know that my tyres were, well, they're below 30%. As soon as they pipe up, you're below 30%. Then I think the second pipe up is, hey, you're below 20%. And you're starting to get a little bit desperate and looking for a pit lane entry anytime soon. So I'd imagine a few of these drivers tonight, Hamish, will be hearing that call from their iRacing spotter or maybe their crew chief or whoever they're using or whatever app they're using. I'm sure it will let them know.
I'm sure it will indeed. Sean Vandermillen joining us in the chat tonight as well. Good to hear Scotty back on the broadcast. When's the next planned camping trip with you and Sean? Scotty, is that coming up in the off-season possibly?
Yeah, well, I've been caravanning with Sean. We've done a trip, it was back when it was a lot warmer, I can tell you that's for sure, up the New South Wales coast there. It was absolutely fantastic. We got the kids up there during the school holidays, but our caravan's gone now. We've got a camper trailer. I'm not sure when the next one will be. I'm sure it will be when the weather gets a little bit warmer, which hopefully isn't too far away. It feels like spring is just around the corner, Hamish.
Yeah, it doesn't, it definitely feels like spring is arriving a bit earlier now. Of course, we're getting into that more El Nino, I think it is, cycle where we've come out of our cold period. We're starting to get warmer winters and obviously warmer summers as well. So hopefully that means that the spring might come a touch earlier. I mean, we're only roughly 2 weeks away from spring beginning, and it's getting into September. And of course next season looking to start up around about the 26th of September or the 27th of September, something like that next season, which would coincide with the beginning of week 2 of iRacing for next season, which is when a lot of different series are running. So those first couple of weeks of September, good time for drivers to go away, get a break in, and just reset and recuperate for the upcoming season, for season 25, which, I'm excited for. Obviously, 25th season, that's a big milestone for the league. No other iRacing league, I don't think, has ever gone that many. So, it's a pretty special occasion for the vets next season.
It's interesting. I do believe OSR Dev Series done 41 consecutive
41? Seasons. That's like
41.
That's like 10 years.
Well, I think that's what you'd find it is. And they used to do a lot of coaching and all sorts of stuff like that within that Dev Series, before, and then it broke out into 2 splits. But yeah, it was around for a very long time, Hamish, and I think 41 was the number we're looking at to be.
Well, I am excited for next season because obviously the drivers have watched for a while. They know I like to theme the season a little bit with how we do the thumbnail and stuff like that. I'm not going to reveal it today. It'll be revealed come round 10 at Okayama in a couple of weeks' time. Of course, this season we had the Lakers theme because it was season 24 for Kobe Bryant. Last season it was Bulls theme because of Michael Jordan. Next season, season 25, though, we stray away from sports and we go the route, Scotty. I'm trying to give a good clue here that's not going to give it away. We go a route that's really close to home for you in particular, and I'll let you try and figure that one out in amongst yourselves.
Yes. Yeah, it will be interesting. I don't mind the format for next season. You proposed. I think it's probably something we can talk about while we've got time to, Hamish.
Yeah, we're first stint. We're looking to go to about lap 19, so we've got some time to talk now. So obviously there was a proposed calendar put out on the over 40s on Monday night, which as a whole I think looks pretty strong. There is one glaring change I would humbly request, and that is, well, we'll run through it and then I'll say which one it is actually. So currently proposed for next season, we'll give you the rounds and then we'll tell you which one is the Enduro, although we already said it's Bathurst, so when Bathurst comes up, that's the Enduro. So proposed, we'll be going racing at Phillip Island in round 1, Bathurst round 2, Watkins Glen the full circuit for round 3, Algarve for round 4, Belle Isle in round 5, Sandown in round 6, Thruxton in round 7, Lamont in round 8, the Rebel Ring in round 9, and then the Saxon Ring in round 10. The one glaring change to me on that list there, Scotty, is Thruxton. Thruxton is not a supercars circuit. I've hosted a race there before in Porsche Cup cars. It's not even a Porsche Cup car circuit. Thruxton, I think, is the one that needs to be changed. And I think it should be Navara, because we didn't get Navara this season because we obviously replaced it with the Bend. I think if it's going to be anything, it should change to Navara. As Dave Arney has just gone off track down at turn 6 just quickly. But yeah, I would say, please, Bruce and John, if you're listening, let's change Thruxton and let's go with Navara, because I don't think Thruxton's going to suit these cars too well.
Yeah, Thruxton's always reminded me of an itch you need some cream for. But yeah, I probably agree with you there, Hamish. Maybe that will be one they'll look at. We'll see. It has to get approved by iRacing, I believe, at this stage. It was up on the Split 4 V8 Vet last night. If you tuned
the
in
Split
there
4, okay.
Friday
Not
night.
the over 40s, all right. That's fine.
Yeah,
but yeah, for
that's when
Split
they had
4.
some quite good info actually comes from there at times where, you know, John, the admin, the management, will let on a few little tips and tricks and whatever hints that's going on with the league and the direction for the future. And this was one of them. I happened to save it. And yeah, very good looking calendar apart from, like you mentioned.
It looks really, really good. I think 9 out of 10 tracks, fantastic choices. Saxon Ring will be very interesting. I love the Saxon Ring. It's a tight circuit. It'll be a tough circuit. But, being in that last round, it's going to be a good round, I do think. But yeah, the obvious change for me is Matt Monday goes off track down at 17. The obvious change for me is Thruxton. And you either put Navara in, because we didn't get it this season. It's a bit like Portimao. So, we've already got Algarve next season, so you could do both of them. Or you go the route of putting in one of the new circuits in Mexico City or Miami Street Circuit in place of Thruxton. But I don't think Thruxton should be on there. I think it should be blacklisted, just like Chicago and just like Oran Park, because it doesn't suit these cars, unfortunately. But that's just my opinion. You take my opinion with any amount of grain of salt as you wish.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I'd probably tend to agree. It is a shorter circuit. But, if we have to race it, we do have to race it. What they are, actually, while we're talking about next season, I do know that the race control group, the admin group, they're actually crying out for people for race control. They've got drivers there that are, or members there that have been doing it for quite some time and want to get back behind the wheel, Hamish. They want to get back racing, or they have other things going on. So they're looking a little bit short-staffed come next season for race control. And if they do become short-staffed, they'll have to start looking at the amount of splits that are run, being 3 or 4 splits. So if you have time to give and you want to get part of race control and do that for a season, by all means, go and hit them up, create a ticket and say, hey, yeah, I want to be in that, and I can help out the league and be race control for season 25. If not, there may be some changes coming that are unpreventable, but inevitable as well, Hamish, I would think, at some stage anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, obviously, if we don't have the race control, it might mean we have to go back to 3 splits, which is unfortunate, because I think it's great that we have 4 splits of drivers racing every single week. But, not everyone, we currently, the league doesn't quite have the facilities to match 4 splits if we don't have the race controllers, especially when we want to run race control for every single split as well. So, if you're out there and you've got time available on Thursday, you want to take a season off, or you're not quite at the age to come join Vets just yet, and maybe you're going to be of age sooner rather than later, hop into race control with the boys, hang out with them, do some race control. They do favour drivers who come in and do race control. So if you do race control and you're going to be of age, say, within, let's say, 2 or 3 seasons, Scotty, you do 3 seasons worth of race control, you'll go to the top of their list to get an entry, because you've done a lot to help the league by getting into race control and keeping the league running as strong as it is.
Oh, you're an absolute walk-in if you do that. Yeah. There is no doubt about it. And say for drivers, they get to hold the current drivers, they get to hold their position for the following season as well. So you will not lose your current invitational position within the league. It'll be there if you go and do race control. I think that's what we're trying to say, Hamish. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not that if you go racing, you're going to be favoured by race control and not given penalties. No. Your entry will be favoured. So you will have a hand up on getting an entry in as there's contact with Lord Mackay and Halil Cesar. That's going to drop the 5 car down into P4 between them as they continue to run round now up towards turn 13. Brad Doble wants to try and get a move done now on Mackay. He might think that Mackay could be under pressure here, especially if he decides that he wants to redress as Mackay goes round. Self-inflicted spin down at turn 17. I think it's turn 17. I don't know. I can get confused around here a little bit. Yeah, I think it was. It was 17. So Mackay now drops well down the order to P15. No contact made with Brad Doble. And if you're Halil Cesar, you might be thinking that could be possibly a little bit of karma. I'm not sure. But I have a guarantee that probably got called into race control.
Yeah, that was a very difficult turn 17. Did you see the debris, the marble starting to form on it? It's already caught a couple of drivers out, I've noticed while we've been chatting, Hamish, and it caught another one of our leading contenders out. They've got a lot of work to do at the moment for Halal. He's going to be trying to excite those rear tyres. He would have put a lot of temperature because that was a really good slide that he caught when he got that little bit of contact. So he's going to have to manage them for the next 6 laps till he gets in there, because that would have used quite a bit of tread.
Yeah, would have used quite a fair bit. And you mentioned that debris that's down there. That could become a major factor throughout this race tonight, Scotty. Not just under green flag conditions, but as well if the safety car's called, because that there could be a prime opportunity for a restart zone here tonight. And if a driver miscalculates it and they hit that debris, they could end up off track and end up in what can only be described as a laughable position if they do that under the safety car restart. But right now we're green flag running. We're lap 13 of 61. Next few laps we're probably going to start seeing some pit stops here, Scotty, because probably a little bit too early just on the tyres alone to come in now. But yeah, I think when we get around about maybe lap 15 or 16, we're probably going to start to see cars traversing through pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give everyone an idea, I know we haven't talked about Robert Christelle, well, initially at the start, but his last lap, Hamish, was a 54.8. It's pretty much a second quicker than anyone else on track. He is absolutely checked out at this stage. He is 7.5 seconds ahead of Shane Randall. He is loving the bend by the looks of it. And, you know, I'm pretty impressed with Shane. He come under a lot of pressure early, Hamish. You know, and he had his own teammate there for a short bit, but definitely was under the pressure. And we mentioned that he was having a train form up behind him. Since then, he's been able to hold himself pretty good speed here, and you know, he's got a little bit of clear air. He's behind him now. Yeah,
he's got about 1.1 seconds back to Brad Doble on board that Racecraft car. You just saw the Blackheart Designs Mustang get a little bit loose up through turn, I believe that was turn 4. Okay. I thought we were a lot later in the lap then, I'll be honest with you, Scotty. It's a very confusing track, and unless you see like a significant corner like turn 6 or turn 17, you can get jumbled a little bit with some of these corners around here. It is a long circuit, 4.9 Ks. I'd hate to call a race around the endurance circuit because that thing is over 7 kilometres long and I think has nearly 30 corners on it, so I'd get lost way too quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just reading the chat there, and you know, we might see a sim rig up for sale very soon by Mickey Clifton. He got married today, apparently, says Mark Horton, and congratulations to him, to Beck. Beck's an awesome name. My partner's Beck too, so I wish them an awesome day. Absolutely great day. Good on you for being married. Don't sell your sim rig in the process.
No longer Rebecca Bogan, now Rebecca Clifton. Congratulations to Mick and Beck out there on getting married today. Absolutely fantastic stuff. I've been following Mick's career for a long time now in supercars, not just here in Vets, but over in SRW as well. Beck used to often get into the chat on the supercars races on SRW, so great that those two have finally gotten hitched. Congratulations to the both of them from all of us here at Infinity Broadcasting. And at the moment, Mick's not doing too bad. He's only down 2 spots in this race at this stage into P8. He has dropped a couple more than that earlier on after the race start, but he's on the comeback train now, and he's hot on the heels of Damon Fisher.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like those 3 drivers in particular that you mentioned, Damon Fisher, Rick Viger, who's just in front of him, and Christopher Blanchard, who was in front. That's your 5, 6, and 7 on track. They have really taken to it this stint and made good ground between all of them. So, yeah, those 3 in particular are driving very, very well at this stage of the race. Yeah,
they've been hanging out together all along. You know, Mick, Wade, Reese, even Robbie Griffiths hasn't dropped too far back off of them as well. So they've all hung out together throughout this one, and they're still battling away quite well here. Rick Viger Just running it a little bit deep there at turn 6. That gives Damon Fisher a little sniff on an opportunity, possibly later on in the lap or further along in this race as well. We're on lap 15 of 61. Should probably see some pit stops coming in quite soon. Rob Crisdale has an 8.2 second lead over Shane Randall in the 501 Blackheart Designs car, with Brad Doble hot on his heels, trying to run away from championship leader Halil Cesar, because Brad would know if he drops points tonight to Halil, he's got a lot of work to do to come back across Misano and Okayama the next few weeks if he has any hope in hell of beating him for this championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Okayama being a non-drop round, anything can happen. It's happened before, I can tell you. And and that's probably one of the highlights to this league and its championship, having that non-drop round. I know there's been talk in the past where we should drop all the rounds, but I think that non-drop round, there is a certain element of pressure there, Hamish, because you can come into these races, you've got Misano next week, you've got this race to complete tonight, which are really key races where you need to capitalise on the drop rounds, make these good races so you can drop some of your poorer performing races, I guess is the way to say it. So it's really starting to heat up, go into that round 10. It's a non-drop round. You maybe have a points lead that you can manage throughout the race if all goes your way.
Well, for Halil Cesar, he hasn't had a necessary bad round all season. One of his 2 drop rounds at the moment this season is his only finish outside of the top 5, and that was still within the top 10. Round 2 till round 7 last week, he has finished inside of the top 5 in every occasion, including 2 wins and multiple podiums to his name as well. He's driving the season for his life at the moment. Doble's had just as good a season, although he's 1 less top 5 than Halil has had. So that's why Halil is leading the title race at this stage. If he can complete this position here tonight, it'll be another top 5 finish with only 2 rounds left to go this season and 1 more droppable opportunity. If he were to have a poor round, he'd want it to be next week at Misano.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is great consistency, and that is how you win a championship, by having very good consistency. Those top 5, those top 10 finishes, pick up a win or 2 here and there if you can. And Halal's definitely gone about it the right way. Tonight, 29 drivers on track here in Split 2, Hamish.
Yeah, there is indeed, as there's getting a bit door-to-door here between Brad Doble and Shane Randall. 29 cars on the road tonight, so I think it's the first time we've actually dropped to less than 30 on track in Split 2 this season. We've consistently been between 30 and 40 cars all season long, but tonight, with only 29, well, what could we see next week in Misano? As Doble looks to come past Randall now up in towards turn 18, he snuck it up the inside of 17, got that job done, and now as they run down the main straight, he'll look to cover the inside line as soon as possible, but Randall wants an aggressive move to get back into position if he can, looking to go for a smalling or shortening gap there down the straight. Little bit of movement between them, and there's contact in towards turn 1. Brad Doble off the road after contact with Shane Randall. That has allowed Halil Cesar, his teammate, through to P2 as they came down towards turn 1. Blanchard looks to take any advantage he can over both of them. But if you're Randall now after that moment there, Scotty, arguably he's probably got to redress that spot because he's likely got a penalty coming his way. And if he does redress it, obviously it's the gentlemanly thing to do. But it will ease the pain that could come from race control.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just out of the spirit of racing, perhaps the redress is on offer regardless there. Well done to Doble to be able to catch that. I see why Randall went for the move. He had to put it on. He is there racing for himself and his teammate. He had 2 Infinity Motorsport cars breathing all over the Shadow Racing car on the WKMP Simsports in Blanchard, waiting to pick up some pieces if it arrives. So I thought yes, there was contact, but I thought they handled that pretty well, Hamish.
They did.
Really, it could have been a lot worse.
And he's just redressed the position there up in towards turn 13. So Randall gives the positions back to Brad Doble. He didn't lose any out of that, actually, to be fair. He didn't lose out to Blanchard or anyone else. And the only difference now is Halil and Shane have pretty much swapped positions between the two of them, and Doble's back to where he was in P3. So he might be a little bit upset that now his championship challenger is ahead of him. I can say as a team owner that I told Shane to redress the position because It was the right thing to do, and I looked back on it and I said, look, I actually think you're at fault. You should probably redress in that scenario. But, you know, he let Brad through. I also sent Brad an apology post-race as well, because that's not how we want to go racing, and it's not how we want to battle for the championship. We want it sorted on track between the drivers who are battling for the title, and unfortunately, lines just got crossed there into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see a couple of cars peel off. I think one of the, I think that was Blanchard who went in, followed by Reynolds as well. Perhaps they're coming in just that little bit earlier. Pit stop, Hamish, but means they've got to go a little bit longer. And we've got another car cycling down pit lane as well.
Brett Taylor.
That is Taylor. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, just to get back to that one, I mean, you've got to look at it from both perspectives. And race control, you've got a very experienced race control and split too, actually. You're quite lucky to have it. I know it is quite a few of the fishy group there, but they've been doing it for a long, long time. And they try to be as transparent and fair as possible. And they're governed by rules as well. You know, they have to follow the V8 Veterans rules. It's pretty well black and white in writing for them to follow. And, you know, I guess part of their experience, they would have looked at it and said, hang on, guys, this is lap 18. Yes, Randall did make a little bit of contact on the side, but you could have given him some room too. Like, you know, we don't need to fight this hard so early. You know, so there could be a couple of different ways of looking at that, Hamish.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, there's multiple scenarios you can look at. You can also look at the fact that, you know, Brad's rival this season in Halil Cesar was amongst that pack as well, so he was hungry to stay ahead of him and ahead of Shane. He didn't want Shane to try and hold him up to allow Halil to stay ahead of him. So, you know, a lot of tensions would have been flared in that moment, but it's racing and we look to move on as Brad gets a little bit loose there off the exit of turn 17. As Halil Cesar goes on to the 19th lap of this race now. Doble's going to come in. Randall's going to continue on as well. Rick Viger, Damon Fisher continue on as Reese Degoe comes into pit lane. Does Mario Reale keep going? He does indeed, as Dave Arney comes through pit road as well. So the top 6 cars get to take a pit stop in this race. As I think Dave Arney just had a mistake there in the pit lane, actually. We just saw him kind of struggling to get it into the pit entry, probably struggling to get it pulled up. In the end, it is a very short pit entry to the cones, and you've got to slow right down to 40 k's an hour as your teammate Brenton O'Brien comes past to get into P7 on the road with Matthew Stores in behind him.
Yeah, we know Brenton is an absolute fuel saver for the ages, so there's no surprise that he's able to go on lap 19 and cycle another lap. I don't mind that the strategy of going a little bit longer if you can here, Hamish. I wasn't able to stretch it out. I had to pit, well, pretty much this lap with the bulk of the drivers that did. But if you could, I don't mind the idea of getting that extra lap in like Robert Christel has. You know, so it will play dividends later on for them, and they get to see now and cycle through their fuel loads where they'll actually come out with this pit stop. So they could take a little bit more, perhaps, take a little bit less. With Robert Christel, I'd imagine he'd be taking 90, 95 litres, taking a fairly decent chunk of fuel here because he's got the time to do it.
Yeah, he's got an extra 12 seconds that he can sit stationary in pit lane and return to the lead of the race when he exits pit road. For Brad Doble, he took a 33-second stop, so that's roughly 84 litres or so. So he looks to have taken a split stop here in this first one as Chrisdale comes in. So we'll see what sort of stop he does here in pit road. We expect Lil Cesar and the rest of them to follow him into pit lane as well. Here on to the beginning of the 20th lap of 61 here tonight at the Bend. Cesar comes in. Randall's going to come in. Viger's going to come in. Yep, so they're all in pit lane now. So let's watch the pit times and how this now sorts out for these drivers in pit lane. So there you see the pit stop times. Paul Burns pitted on lap 3. So unfortunately, I think he's going to have to do, unless he can make critical lap, he's going to have to do 3 stops as Chrisdale makes the pit box. Mario Reale's gone for a 20th lap, actually, so he's managed to go an extra 1. That's worked out well for him. Brenton O'Brien's also going for an extra lap as well. That'll even out his stops a little bit more.
I could imagine Brenton at the moment going, damn it, that Mario managed to go the 20th lap because he would have been searching for that bonus point.
He would have been. Darren Crosby's also stayed out there as well, it seems. He's had a drive-through penalty previously in this race. That slowed him up a little bit, probably gave him an extra lap or so worth of fuel. As Ben Brook and Bruce Tannick also joined the pit lane as well. Rob Chrisdale's just exiting now. He had a 34.2 second stop. So about the same that Brad Doble had, roughly 84 litres on board that car now. There's Brad coming down the straight. Shane Randall, Halil Cesar have taken longer stops. 40 seconds for Cesar, so that's going to be roughly 95 litres on board that Cooler Master car. Randall has taken 41 litres, so it'll be a little bit more than what his teammate has taken. Maybe that's where the team was planning on making the move, Scotty, in pit lane. Put a bit more in Shane's car. That gets Halil ahead. And then you see what happens in the second stop later in the race.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because they have lost out on track position here. Although, Halil does have a little bit of clear air ahead of him. Perhaps not so much for Randall. I think he had a little bit of traffic. He's got clear air as well ahead of him before he gets into a bit of traffic. So they have dropped a position, Halal has, and definitely Caesar dropped it. Blanchard's made position. He's made gains through his pit stop with a 36.1 second pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see how this strategy plays out later. Clifton, the longest out of that trio with a 42.4 second pit stop. So, yeah, we'll have to wait until the last round of pit stops, if we go green, that is. And there is one more round of pit stop, if not two, to where it all plays out and where these drivers go. But I don't mind the different strategies at the moment, Hamish.
So if we look at the current intervals between drivers and then we compare the gaps. So Christelle at the moment has a 12-second gap back to Brad Doble, who has corrected P2 on the road. It's then 16 seconds back to Chris Blanchard, and then it's 19 seconds back to Halil Cesar. Now, Halil has taken, 6 seconds more worth of fuel in the car, so the corrected gap's around about 13 seconds. So if Halil Cesar wants to get past Rob Crisdale in the next stop, he pretty much needs to catch up to and pass Brad Doble in this next section of the race. Doble's around about 7 seconds ahead of him, up into P3 at the moment, who has then got a further 12 seconds up to Crisdale. So he's got to get that gap within Robert Crisdale. This is going to be a tough job for him, within 6 seconds if he wants to get the job done in pit lane. Otherwise, Crisdale should rejoin this race still in the lead. 153.71 the last lap though from Brad Doble. New fastest lap of the race by way of that Racecraft entry. If that lap holds true throughout the rest of this one, he will gain an extra point for himself come the checkered flag flying at the end of the race here tonight, as Mario Reale's had a spin down at turn 1. Hasn't run many races this season, has the hypersonic racing car of Mario Reale, and unfortunately he's just had a tough night on the road at this portion of the race proceedings.
Yeah, he was just sitting there stationary, and I was like, no, surely he hasn't blown an engine, but he's got that fired up and he's well underway. So maybe some cold tyres there, a little bit of marbles on track, Hamish, that extra fuel load, that weight has caught him out.
Yeah, quite possibly could have. Mark Poynton has joined us in the chat tonight as well. Good evening, Hamish and Scott. Let's go Rob Crisdale. He's driving well. He's driving really well, Mark. I miss having Mark in the chat. He used to race in Split 2 for a couple of seasons. Slowly but surely became one of my favourites to watch, actually, in the field. And I know he's been doing quite well for himself up in Split 1, Scotty. So it's been good to see from Mark Poynton's point of view. He hasn't rejoined Split 2 since he left in season 19 when he went up to Split 1. He's been doing quite a good job for himself, and he'll be hoping, well, it looks to be likely that next season his teammate Rob Crisdale will be joining him back into Split 1 for season 25. And in the world that we do go back to 3 splits, Scott, if that happens, could we maybe see the top 10 drivers in Split 2 go up to Split 1 instead of just the top 5 this season?
That would be an interesting one. You might even see the splits go a little bit larger than what they are now. I think as a whole, throughout all 4 splits, we have seen a decline on average in race participation. That's what I'm trying to say. We look at last week at where we had the rain. There was quite, all splits were down a bit. Some were struggling to get 30 in. You've struggled to get 30 in tonight here into Split 2. We did have 41 or so, which is a good number. That's about average that we're seeing in Split 1, apart from last round. We're seeing around 40 drivers, never quite the 50. And I'm not sure how Split 3, perhaps they're going a little bit better with numbers. But I do think Split 4 was down a little bit to where they've been as well throughout previous seasons on an average, and I'm talking a rolling average basis here, Hamish.
Yeah, I think, if we could figure out the rolling average, we'd be able to determine what the split sizes could look like next season as well. Andrew Rushworth in the chat with us as well. Good evening all. Sorry I'm late. Let's go XSR. So he's giving love to his teammates Mark Houghton and Mick Clifton here tonight as well. As we said, congratulations to Mick Clifton who got married today. Mark doing not such a bad job at the moment. He's down 5 spots here, but he's running good stead with Dave Arney in behind him at this stage, Scotty. Mark Houghton taking one of the longest pit stops of the race, 47 seconds on that last run through pit lane. So he looks to go long here. Could gain him some good positions throughout this race if he can get a solid stint under his belt for the next 30 laps or so.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the Accelerate Sim Racing guys as well as the Frog Leap Juiced Racing team. Both those teams have been on the rise over the season. They've really adapted to these Gen 3 cars, especially what I would say in the last 3 months or so, 4 months, very, very well. You mentioned Mark Point and how he's going in split one. I can attest to what you were saying, Hamish, driving extremely well, has very good race pace, and is only going strength to strength there. So keep that up there, Mark. And Rob here tonight, you're seeing how well he's going in the Frog Leap Boost Racing. And we'll switch our attention to the Accelerate Sim Racing guys in Split 1 there. You've got Wayne Walker. He's leading the charge. He's been absolutely dominating at times, extremely fast. But you've got Law Mackay, who we know is very, very good driver. Has put himself amongst it, like you mentioned. He's down 7 positions, but he was right up there before. So, yeah, they're in good shape, those two teams, Frog Leap and Accelerate Sim Racing.
Well, of course, viewers of the Infinity Broadcasting channel as well who watch along with the VRS Porsche Cup Series on Monday nights, they'll be no strangers to some XSR cars. We've had Greg Favell and Damien Cairns in that series this season, as Chris Blanchard just lets Halil Cesar go. He knows that he hasn't got a finger in the fight for the championship, so he lets Halil drive on through and lets him battle away up the road for him. I know that Halil was very thankful for that, and gave me some very positive comments for Chris after he allowed him through there. So top job there from Chris Blanchard, just to let a championship contender through at this stage of the season. If it was maybe 5 rounds ago, probably wouldn't have let him through, but with 2 rounds left to run and Chris isn't in the championship contention position he may have wanted to have been, he's made it a little bit easier for those who are in contention.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is great to see. That's smart thinking by Blanchard. And he has been quite vocal about that. And he goes to prove his point tonight, where he says, "Well, yeah, if I say it, then I'm going to walk it." And he's walked his talk. And well done to Blanchard. Like you say, I'm sure Halal, he appreciated it. We've got a car going slow here, Hamish.
Yeah, that's Mark
Horton.
Yeah, and he's off the side of the road, and that car does not look like it is going anywhere. There's no engine at all on it, Scotty. I think we might have a blown engine, and that's in a very dangerous position. Could this be a safety car at this stage of the race? Because if it is, we're roughly 4 laps away from what is the earliest possible critical lap in this race. And for drivers to pit now, they will be committing to a 3-stop strategy if the safety car is called.
Yeah, this is a tough one because track position is everything. This will be a safety car. There's going to be no doubt about it, Hamish. There has to be a safety car here. Gee whiz, I think some of these guys are that far out in front here. They could almost afford to come in and top their tank up.
Safety car has been called by race control, so it will be joining the circuit. Let's see if Crisdale comes in. 13-second gap. This will probably help Paul Burns a little bit here because, well, he pitted very early in this race. He was trying to go to critical lap, I would say, to get the fuel in the car, but I would suspect he's going to commit to a 3-stop strategy now. Crisdale's going to commit to a 3-stopper by coming down pit lane. Will Burns and Doble do the same thing? Well, I'd say Burns is almost a guarantee. What about Brad Doble, though? Brad Doble's committing to it as well. So Doble and Crisdale committing to a 3-stop. Halil Cesar is staying out on track, so he's sticking to the strategy of a 2-stop here tonight. So is Blanchard. So is DeGoey and Clifton. Randall's coming in. What about Lorne Mackay? He's into pit road too. Reynolds, Viger, Griffiths all in. So what the issue now is, if more cars come through, Crisdale and Doble could get buried in the field here, Scotty, and this could make their night a whole lot tougher than what it would have been if they'd stayed out on track.
Yeah, it absolutely would. But in Crisdale's defence, he has outright pace on this field. There's no doubt about it. At times he's been a second a lap quicker on the same fuel load, same tyres. So he is definitely filling it all the way up to the end. But you're right, it does put him a long, long way back. He's going to lose another position here. Where he's going to come out.
Well, it's his teammate that he's let pass, so I would say they're just going to let him go when they get green
P10.
again. Yeah, P10.
P10.
He's left, it looks to me, he's left enough fuel load to cover tyres on the next stop. So he may not be out of the woods just yet. So he's given up some time to Halil Cesar now. Now the issue is, so if he was in a very tough spot there, Scotty, because if he hadn't have committed to the stop, he would have been a lot closer to Cesar. But Cesar behind him, we mentioned he needed to be within 6 seconds of him. Well, Cesar would have been right on his heels off the end of that pit stop. Could he trust his race pace to build that gap up anymore? You could argue that Cesar only dropped so much because, he was stuck in a battle and stuck in traffic previously, where now he's given up 16 seconds. And the difference that Cesar needs over Crisdale now in the next pit stop is roughly, I think, about 17 seconds to cover the difference they're going to have in pit lane.
Yeah, so that it is an interesting one. If he could cycle through this traffic, not get held up that much, I don't think 17 seconds to keep that gap to Cesar is out of the question. Yes, they both probably need to go through pit lane unless there is multiple safety cars.
Yeah, unless there's another, then I don't think they could make it because they'd have to save about 3 or 4 laps worth of fuel. So unless I'd say there's another 1 or 2 safety cars, I think Crisdale's going to have to pit again.
Yeah, and Rush is absolutely right. You would be clutching it as much as you can, and you can actually go engine off if you do want to, especially right about now because it's all downhill for these drivers for quite some way, given the undulation of this track. So you can save quite a bit of fuel behind the safety car here. It won't be enough though, Hamish. You're absolutely right. It's a lot of fuel. You're talking 4 laps at quite a significant fuel burn. So I don't think anyone saved that much. But
no, I mean you'd have to run 3 litres a lap just to make up the extra 4 laps worth of fuel, and that would be impossible around here. It's too long of a lap to do that. Well, it's too much to do whilst carrying pace, because that's the important part. You don't want to give up lap time to those around you who are committed to doing their 2-stop, who can now push on and just continue to go full push, hell for leather for the next 15 or so laps. What the safety car does do though is it now allows those drivers who've committed to only doing a 2-stop to save a lap's worth of fuel roughly, and now they can go a lap longer. So, for example, Cesar, with his, I think he took about 97 litres or so, could go to roughly, I think it was lap 44, maybe 43. He could go out to lap 45 now, maybe even 46 if he saves a little bit extra. And then that opens up his strategy for the end of the race, because he'll have fresh tyres for about 15 laps. He'll have low fuel in the car. He'll be able to push on pretty easily. Where for Crisdale, unless he knows he has to commit to a 3-stop, he may try and save fuel, which may hold him up. Plus, as well, the traffic around him could hold him up. It's a very interesting ball game we've got on our hands.
It is, and so going by that, I get the feeling you think Halal's in the best position at the moment, followed by Blanchard and Reese DeGuy as well. You've got to remember they're up there. Clifton, Fisher, Arnie, Taylor, Doyles, and then Benjamin Brook. They're all on the same strategy. So very interesting, like you mentioned, Brook and Crisdale being teammates. They'll swap that one around pretty early, I'd imagine. But yeah, and then obviously from Robert Crisdale downwards, they're your ones who have completed the second pit stop. You'd imagine they pretty much have full fuel on board too, Hamish.
Yeah, majority of them may have taken full fuel. Others may have taken 20 litres less to allow time for a tyre change later in the race. But there you see, Darren Crosby is the only one amongst that pack who did not take a third pit stop or a second pit stop at that stage. But he is in true position because everyone will need one more stop to get home. Yes, these drivers have now completed their CPSs to get to this point, but they've pitted before critical lap, so they need probably 3 or 4 safety cars just to save the fuel they would need to get home at the end of this race, because they were 4 laps before the critical lap. Safety car, though, has pulled away. Oh, sorry, he hasn't pulled away just yet, I lie. There's the nipple I was talking about, Scotty, on the side of the track. He now pulls away.
It is quite round, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very round. So Halil says we'll have control of the field when we get going once again in this race, and we will see how well he goes off the green flag restart as well. Andrew Rushworth saying he did a 2-stop lap 3 and lap 36, although that was due to damage. Oh, that's talk about having your hand forced, Scotty. That's not a fun time, having to go 33 laps and then having to go 25 laps on a set of tyres. That is not a fun time at all on the road. When does Halil Cesar go green? Well, only time will tell, as he leads the field up towards the final couple of corners. He may go...
You'd go early the way this field stretched out. As soon as they say they're in pit lane, you'd go right now, because this field is stretched out. They haven't punched up, and that's exactly what he's done, Hamish. That is a great call. He's stretched this field even further, which is to the advantage of Halal, and he's gone early. Blanchard sort of went with him. He's 0.6 behind. DeGuy sort of missed it as well. He's another 0.6 behind. But Clifton and Fisher, they were on the ball. They made sure they stayed with Blanchard and to keep up there.
Oh, that worked out really well for Halil. He managed to get the foot down at arguably the toughest corner of the track, turn 17, as Mick Clifton goes off the road at turn 1 and has to traverse across the grass at turn 2. That'll be a heavy slowdown for that XSR car. It could be a crucial position for Rob Crisdale if he can get up close enough to get past him at this stage. They haven't made the swap yet, have Brooke and Crisdale. Clifton's going to slot in right behind Matt Stoyles and Brett Taylor of East West Racing, East West Tasmania Racing, I should say. But Halil has proven this season he's been a great safety car restarter. He'll think about it to himself across the safety car period. When might he go? Where might be the best time to go? It worked out perfectly for him out at Long Beach earlier in the season, and it's worked out fantastic for him here tonight out at the Bend as well. 1.3 seconds is now the gap back to Blanchard, 1.6 back to Degoe, and then it's 0.3 of a second roughly back to Damon Fisher in P4.
Yeah, that was a great restart, Hamish. He recognised there was a spread in the field, so he went early. It created a bigger spread. He's 1.3 seconds back to Blanchard. His main rival, his component, who he's actually really racing for, Robert Crisdale, is 8, can you believe this? 8 seconds on the first lap behind Hello Caesar. So this has really played into his hands. That's a lot of time. You talked about 17 being the magic number that Crisdale needs to stay in touch with. Well, he's, halfway. He's got a lot of work to do. He's got another, he's only got 9 seconds to be able to drop, and he's got 9 cars to pass.
Well, you say 9 seconds. There's roughly 18 laps until Halil Cesar should need a pit stop. He needs to gain half a second every single lap on Rob Crisdale if he hopes to come out of pit lane ahead of the Frog Leap Juice Racing entry previously in the lead of this race with the 808 Mustang. As Ben Brook goes up the inside now, Matt Stoyles gets a double bubble effort there on Clifton and on Stoyles through turn 1. Clifton now trying to scramble his way through. Crisdale, though, would have wished and hoped he was in the position of his teammate, because now he's caught up in the traffic, and this is where the time is going to get chewed up in the gap to the race leader, Halil Cesar. And this is what the struggle is going to be for Crisdale tonight, is dealing with the traffic, dealing with where you can make overtakes, where you can't make overtakes, and where the battles are really, really tough. The other drivers in that position, Brad Doble and Wade Reynolds, who could strategize his way further up the field, but he took a short stop on that last effort. He has some time to give back in pit lane. I don't think he's going to strategize his way up to a podium right now.
Yeah, that was a very interesting sequence of events through turn 1, because it was his teammate, Benjamin Brook, who went for the overtake, but inadvertently, that checked it up and dropped. They just bled time led time to the leaders there. Robert Christnell, he didn't make any time. It's out to 10 seconds now. And we've seen Wayne Reynolds come under, have a little bit of a look at Christnell. So he had to defend coming into turn 6. So he has his hands full. Looks like he's got it back under control. And he's all over the back of Mick Clifton in that Accelerate Sim racing car. He wants to get this move done. He recognises that, hey, I need to get a shuffle on these guys in front. They're starting to spread away. I need to get this pass on Mick done now.
So we looked back at lap 22, the gap was 19.5 seconds as Chris Dale goes at the inside of Mick Clifton. So now we've got it. Thanks for making me change that, Rob. Appreciate it. So the gap's now roughly 8.6 seconds at the commencement of lap 27. Cesar, by the way, on lap 27, or lap 27, did a 1:53.46, fastest lap of the race for the field. It'll be a tough lap to beat for the rest of the field, so that could be a bonus point coming his way on board that number 5 Mustang. The last lap we saw it. Well, that's the sort of gap that's been happening between Chrisdale and Cesar. We mentioned the magic number of roughly 17 seconds for Cesar to Chrisdale on the next stop. It's out to 10.7 seconds now to the race leader. And as I said, he's only got to gain half a lap every single lap to Rob Chrisdale up until lap 45 when he's looking to probably come into pit lane. It's going to be an interesting scenario at play come the next sort of 16 and a half laps or so.
Yeah, well, what it will do, Hamish, is in a strategy sense, it's going to force Rob's hand that when Halal comes into pit, Rob needs to come in and pit with him, just so that you don't get that undercut of the tyres over himself and even further bring out that gap, because I know you're saying there's a further 8 seconds, but say he pits earlier and then he gains another 2-3 seconds with those fresher tyres, that now blows it out to 11 seconds. You see where I'm going with it?
Yeah.
So he has to be very careful, does Rob, to make sure that he gets his pit stop right done and almost forces his hand to pit at the same time as Halal.
Yeah, it's very interesting at how the hands have been forced for Chrisdale tonight. He had to make a split-second decision under the safety car whether it was worth coming into pit lane, forcing a 3-stop strategy for himself tonight and seeing if maybe Cesar would bite at the cherry and follow him in. He didn't, which now forces the hand of Chrisdale, as you said. So, you know, he was under a very tough sort of Sophie's Choice scenario was Rob. You either give up time and have Cesar possibly hang with you and stay within the 6 seconds you've currently got over him in the pit stop, or you gain for free about 11 seconds on that in this stop. It's a tough scenario for him to be in. We mentioned it's 17 seconds he's got to be within. He's currently within that, but it is stretching every single lap.
Last lap around, I did notice that Rob was able to be within a tenth. He had a little bit of clear air, but that has brought him up to spoils now. So you'll be starting to feel that. Spoils, might not be quite as quick as what Halal is, and as well as what Chrisdale is. So he could get checked up here. This is where that half a second could come, and it also brings him back under, back under attack by Clifton, Reynolds, Doble, who are all starting to queue up behind.
Yeah, well, Doble will be hoping that he can stay within roughly 20 seconds of Cesar, because that is the rough difference between them now. So he needs to be within 20. He's at 12.5 seconds to the race leader. But as the laps go by, the time's only shrinking in the opportunity that they can stay within that time frame. Cesar will have to pit before them. That is a guarantee for you there, Scotty. He will need to pit before them. He can't go as long. But it's whether they decide to come into pit lane when he comes in to try and counteract the undercut opportunity that he will have on fresh tyres. It's going to be tough. He's going to have to pick it right, because if they get released, and of course they're on fresher tyres than him right now, Scotty, so if they get released from the traffic and he hasn't come into pit lane yet, he's going to have to come in almost immediately just to counteract the fact that they're going to be on fresher rubber than he is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and the field, even though it did get spread, it is bunched up. Probably won't get held up with traffic. Other drivers may be like, "Hey, we recognise that you've had your 2 or 3 stops. That's the point of me. You're on a different strategy. We're not going to hold you up." So there might be a little bit of that in play as well. Hopefully, you get a bit of clear air when you do pit, that you can utilise those fresh rubbers, especially when you're pushing for track position like these drivers will be. As we see a nice big look up the inside there, that looks like Scholes is coming through on Crosby. This is nice and tight, beautiful driving by these drivers. As Mulford, he wants to take advantage. A little bit of contact there, Hamish, a little bit of door. He's put a little bit of that white marking on that black and yellow car, and he's got through. So I wonder whether a little bit of red mist there for Crosby's going to come, or whether there'll be a report on into race control about that. But I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see.
I think racing's racing. Get a bit of door-to-door action happening. I don't see anything wrong with it. Bit of touring car action for us. I think it's fine.
I think at times, you know, we probably do reach for the race control a little bit earlier than what we need to. Maybe Crosby, he's an experienced driver, so is Mulford. Maybe they recognised there wasn't anything in that, and it was a little bit of just door-to-door, and we're having fun out here, boys, and we're going to rub some more panels if we can. Indeed.
Reese to going in the chat list as well. Hello from Bali. Well, Reese might have to go find Mr. Brett Fisher. Go have a chat to him. I know he flies back to Australia fairly soon. He'll be back next week from Asano. It's been a great couple of weeks with you, Scotty, in the booth before Brett does return, not only for his racing duties, but his regular commentary duties as well. And I hope his holiday's been fun over in Bali as well. But Reese doing well at this stage. Scotty, P3 on the road, one position just ahead of Damon Fisher, and then hot on the heels of Chris Blanchard too. So this top 5 battle, very enticing for us. All of these guys, realistically, could be within the hunt for a top 5 finish tonight if the strategy goes their way.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a good drive by these drivers from P2 all the way to P5, I think it is. So they're driving absolutely beautifully, led by Blanchard. He's made 7 positions, and Reese DeGuy has made 12 positions. I know we haven't talked much about the SLS driver, and I hope he's having a great time over in Bali. But he driving absolutely beautifully here at the moment. And, you know, I wonder what his thoughts were of the bend. He'd probably be liking it about now.
Well, he's actually been driving arguably his best season here in the Vets thus far this season. Normally he's been a little bit like a roller coaster, up and down throughout. He's always been up and around the top 10. He's constantly been in amongst the top 10, up and around the top 5, taken multiple podiums this season, yet to take a win. He arguably threw it away at Road America. He would even agree himself. But he's had a very solid season as Reese. Very impressive season as well, Scotty. If he remains in Split 2 next season, he is going to be a proper challenger for the title. I have no doubts about that. Currently, he sits P4 in the championship on 819 points. So he's within that top 5. If he can stay strong over the next few rounds, he could find himself in a Split 1 promotion position leading into season 25 next season.
Yeah, he could do. There's quite a few drivers, and I probably didn't answer the question that you asked before about, you know, the potential of 10 drivers changing splits, you know, which would mean 10 coming down, 10 going up. You know, plus you've got new drivers in that are doing pre-qualifying. They're going to fit in the mix there somehow too. It's an interesting one because I often think, and this is only my personal view, Hamish, and by all means, no means am I speaking on behalf of the league. I think that's Moffin off at the moment.
It was, and Griffiths as well further around, and then Matt Scholes as well. So this corner,
17.
Yeah, this corner is catching a lot of drivers out tonight. A lot of drivers are heading off track there. It's a real struggle corner.
Yeah, so to get back to what I was saying, because I think the way it is at the moment, sometimes it feels it's easier to stay in Split 1 than to get into it. And I think, you know, there does need to be a little bit more shuffling at times, but how you go about that, how you manage it and how you make it fair, God, you know, I don't have the answers to that. So could there be up to 10 people to answer that question? Change? Yeah, absolutely you could have 10, especially if you've got...
Do we introduce maybe a system in future seasons, Scotty? And I mention this because I had the privilege of calling a NASCAR trucks race earlier in the week where during the season they not only have their championship, they actually have a bracket style tournament between the drivers where it's like head to head. So like let's give an example of it might be Chris Blanchard versus Mick Clifton this week, right? Blanchard beats Clifton if he were to beat him. Blanchard moves on to the next round of the bracket next week. Clifton's knocked out. And you maybe run it then, so across the season you knock drivers out until you get to round 10. And whoever wins the bracket-style tournament gets an automatic spot into Split 1 next season. Because that could offer up another option. It could give us, say, a 6th driver that could possibly go up who has won their way there by winning the bracket across the season.
It's an interesting one. I'm not sure how they would do it, but I definitely think there is room for more than 5 drivers moving. I do think that, and I think it would definitely shuffle up a few things and make make people maybe even attend a few more races too, perhaps. But so there's a lot for them to think about, and I'm not sure how that approach. That's an interesting one though, Hamish. I've never really worked out how NASCAR does it specifically, but I'd be interested to scope that out.
That's not necessarily like the playoff system, for example. That is like, it's literally, so say you would need obviously to be a multiple of 4 for it to work out. So let's say, 30 or a multiple of 16. So it'd be 16, 32, 48. So you need 48 drivers in a split. You could then bracket them all into 1v1 battles for round 1. Half the field would get knocked out in round 1. You'd go to round 2. All of a sudden you've got, half of 38, half of 48 left, which would be 24. And then you knock down to 12, and then you knock down to 6, and then it might be that you have 3 drivers who battle it out by round 5 or whatever it is, and those 3 drivers, whoever wins out of the 3, gets the automatic split 1 promotion at the end of the season, making sure that they do their minimum 8 races, right? So, you have some legalities around it where you must complete something to do this, but I think it'd be a really interesting thing we could implement for next season.
Yeah, and that would be based on driver rankings though too, wouldn't it?
You would just put them into a randomizer, I would say, and then you would throw them out in a bracket. You could do rankings where you take the drivers' overall rankings and you would seed them. So whoever the highest rated driver in Split 2 is, they'd face the lowest rated driver in Split 2 the first week. So might seem a little bit unfair, but that's how it would be the fairest way to seed it. So if it was right now, it would be Halil Cesar versus, who's last in the championship? Versus Richard Barella, who's unfortunately not here again. I know Richard's been dealing with work previously, so hopefully we see him back on track soon. But yeah, it would be, say, Halil Cesar versus Richard Barella this week, and then whoever lost out of the 2 of them, next one to move on, and then they'd face the next person who moves on as well. So, it'll be classic bracket style. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it works out. A lot of tweaking in the background, obviously, to figure that out. But again, it's just a new way that we could maybe spice things up a little bit this season. And I'm not against it not being a thing. I'm not against it being a thing either. As Damon Fisher gets through on Reese to go, a great move there from the NZ AJR car. Gets the job done, moves up into P3. It's a talking point for sure. And I think it could be very interesting.
Yeah, well, there's always you definitely always got to scope these things out, evolve as a league. The Gens 3, we've had a good run so far with them, Hamish, and the gloss always wears off. There will always be a core structure of guys, especially within the vets, that will stay with them, especially in Scops, especially in Pro Series, those type of leagues. You're always going to have the core, but there will be a certain amount of drop off. You've got to expect that people's lives change, and the gloss does wear off. We see the Misfits car here. Having a look on the outside, that was courageous by all means. And he's run a little bit wide. This could give the opportunity. Yeah, he's going to get that done. Sneaks around the outside, gains that position. Does Scott McKenzie over Matthew Stoyles?
Yeah, and Shane Randall wanted to sneak his way back through there. Could have been a misplay from Shane tonight to come into pit lane under that safety car, Scotty. He's way down the order compared to where he was, and he's not making any gains at the moment. He's got some work to do across the next period if he hopes to get back into the top 10.
He does. Indeed he does. It's an interesting one that you say. Perhaps he could have taken a little bit less fuel to maintain track position. That would have been a hard one for you guys to work out on the fly. But yeah, maybe 20 litres extra fuel would have given him that 4-5 car jump plus, to keep him up into that top 8 or so area and use that pace that he clearly has shown, especially with his qualifying results.
So following the gap as the moment as Crisdale finally gets past his teammate Ben Brook. Race leader Halil Cesar has got 13.6 seconds over Rob Crisdale. And Crisdale right now has got a gap up to Brett Taylor, so expect a small gain here from Crisdale over the differential time up to Halil Cesar at the top of the field. If you're Cesar, you've probably got to pit within the next 4 laps, Scotty, just to try and cover the gain that Crisdale could make back on you here.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because one, you want to force his hand, but two, you've still got to get to the end of the race. And ultimately, if you could make it to lap 40, that would give you a 21 lap run home. Yeah, you know your tyres are going to be able to handle it. You know you can push them at times if you need to. You're still going to have a little bit of tread onto you. But if you were to pit now and you will sit there and the next thing you're starting to ask your car to do 24, 25 laps on the set of tyres, that does change it a little bit. And yeah, the drop-off can be significant, or mistakes can be significant that can cost time.
Yeah, mistakes could be a major factor. Cesar, though, looking to be mistake-free at the moment. He is currently on a 0x for this race and leading the way by 4.3 seconds over Chris Blanchard, Damon Fisher, Reece Segoe and Dave Arney for the top 5. Then there's Brett Taylor. Very impressive spot for him to be in tonight. If he could maintain a top 10 finish, could be a sneaky driver of the day going his way here this evening as well, Scotty. I think Brett is yet to get that breakout performance, and I'd say a top 10 would be that if he can maximise it here tonight. Crisdale, he wants his first win this season. He needs it tonight at Tailem Bend. If he has any hope of challenging for the championship this season to Halil Cesar and Brad Doble, he's been behind them ever since Long Beach when Cesar took his first win, because Doble took his first win back at Road Atlanta. So for Crisdale, he's been hunting down this race win ever since then. Not even ever since then, ever since round 1, where he missed out on it to Trent Allen out at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And at round 8 without a race win, well, he needs one tonight, because otherwise he may not come up trumps over the next 2 weeks.
I'm just trying to go back through my memory book, and I do believe Robert at times, even when he was in Split 1, he is a previous Split 1 driver and was there for many seasons, Hamish. I think he's actually got a win or definitely a podium in Split 1. Yeah, and he strategized his way into that, but also drove beautifully. So he is one of these drivers that somewhere, somehow, sometimes he comes up with these absolute wild races, sort of like what he's doing here at Tailem Bend. He has that pace over the field or over his rivals, which he clearly does tonight. But it comes down to this strategy called, did he get it right? Because I feel that if he was in Halal's position and he'd stayed on the same strategy as Halal, that he definitely would be clearing out in front at this stage.
So his last win in V8 Veterans was back on the 23rd of June 2022. So season would have been season 15? Season 15 of the Vets back at Le Mans. That was his last and only win in Vets. And that, he started that race in P21 and finished P1 on the road at Le Mans. I believe was a Split 1 race as well, Scotty. So his only ever win has come from Split 1. He's had a couple of podiums, including a podium at Road America this season, of course, finished P2. Ursula back on the 5th of January in 2023, so that would have been season 18. Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps earlier this season as well in round 1. Portland this season as well. Zandvoort back in 2024. So, actually, no, his win was not season 15. I am wrong. His win was season, possibly season 12, actually. Back in June of 2022. It was before my time, so it was before season 14. Yeah, and then, yeah, Zandvoort, he had a P4. So his podiums this season is the most podiums he's ever seen in a single season. 3 podiums thus far this season. If it's a podium or a win here tonight, it will be his 4th. It'll be his 2nd win and his 1st win in over 3 years.
Yeah, I just going back to that Le Mans race, I remember that one, and that was one of those ones where the safety car came out on lap 10. I think we were running a virtual safety car or something too, where everyone had to be on the pit limiter at the same time and all this sort of stuff, right? But it was a massive fuel save to the end, and I'm talking massive. Some drivers chose not to do it, some didn't. I remember Dan Hall and myself, we worked together throughout that race to make it, to fuel save to the end. And I believe Robert Christo, he might be able to answer it if he's in the chat, or whoever it was that he was with. He worked with 2 other cars, and I got a feeling maybe Scott McCune was one of them. And there was another driver. There was 3 of them in that lead group. They worked together to fuel save to the end, and they done it. You know, it was a massive fuel save, massive ask, and they done it extremely well. And I still remember that win. Now that you mentioned it was Le Mans, and yeah,
that was round 2 of season 12 in Split 1. And the week prior, in round 1 at Belle Isle, he finished P39. So in his first 2 rounds, he finished P39, which could have been plumb last, and then P1 the week after. So a very good effort from Rob Crisdale. And he did it in a ZB Commodore, and now he runs a Mustang. So he's that season as well, he ran 1 race in the Mustang. The other 8 he ran in the Commodore. So,
well, that probably explains why he hasn't won another race, Hamish.
Yeah, because he... Well, he went back to the Commodore for the last round. So he went to the Mustang at Phillip Island, finished P34, and must have decided, it's the Ford's fault. I'll go back to the Commodore the week after and finish P25 at Alton Park. So, but yeah, it'll be, if he wins tonight, it'll be his first win in over 3 years in the Vets. And it'll be a very impressive win if he can win it as well. He's 13.5 seconds away from Halil Cesar at the moment. Now, that 17 seconds is a rough estimation. And depending on when Cesar pits, he could gain the extra 4 seconds on the fresher tyres to chase down Rob before his final stop in this race. It's going to be a very close, tight-knit battle to the very end as we hit lap 39 of 61. Blanchard, Fisher and Arnie are battling away at the moment for P2 on the road. Reese to go, he came in a few laps to go for his final stop of the race. Rob Crisdale has got a chase down to make up to Halil Cesar as Fisher up the inside of Blanchard. At turn 18, it's going to be a drag race down towards turn 1. We'll let this play out. He's going to tuck back in behind, and Arnie is on the hunt for a position. We'll be back very shortly after we take a quick ad break here to hear some messages from Racekraft Simulations, a long-time supporter of the series. Ever since season 18, they've been title sponsors of the Vets. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more action from round 8 of season 24 of the V8 Veterans here, brought to you by Racecraft. But don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon. Welcome back into the Racekraft Simulations V8 Veterans Split 2 action for Season 24, Round 8 here at Tailem Bend. Hamish Munro with you alongside Scott Gamble once again. If you're just joining us here this evening, Hillel Cesar leads the way. The safety cars have played a massive part in this race thus far. We've had one, but it shook up the strategy for a lot of the field. A massive gamble for half the field, and then another massive gamble for the other half of if you decided to pit or not under the safety car. Cesar, he needs to pit now, Scotty, if he hopes to have any gain at all on Rob Crisdale across this next stop. The gap is down to 12.6 seconds. If he goes any longer, that time's only going to get chewed up more and more. And before we continue our special comments, I do need to mention, if you want to go have a chat to John and the team over at Racekraft Simulations and you're in the Perth area, head over to 16 Gregan Road, Perth Airport. Check out some of the rigs they've got on the floor. And if you've got the cash, fork out for that very special PT1. And massive shout out to our other series sponsors: Logitech G, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, Nova Simsports, Südspeed gloves, and Chubby Buns burgers for the Driver of the Day award. As pit stops are happening, Brett Taylor, Ben Brook, Wade Reynolds, Matt Stores all in. Cesar's not coming on this lap, Scotty. It's got to be lap 42 now that he comes in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He has to come in. He was probably lucky that Brad Doble didn't pit that last lap around, because there could be an undercut done on him there. I think Robert Crisdale may have him covered at this stage. He has been gaining a few tenths a lap on him since he's got clean air at the moment. Yeah, so definitely Halal needs to come in, and he should be looking to cover Brad Doble from Shadow Racing. Yeah,
he can't quite cover Rob Crisdale at this stage at 12.4 seconds. He can cover Brad Doble at 19.8 seconds though. And that's arguably the more important name that he needs to cover, because that's the driver who is P2 in the championship at the moment. He has got a bit of wiggle room back to Crisdale, so he can afford to give up the win to Crisdale here tonight. He cannot afford to give up a position to Brad Doble, because it will help Doble's chances leading into Misano and then Okayama in 2 weeks' time for the final two rounds. So for Cesar, the main aim of the game is get points on Doble and try and get as close as you can to Crisdale.
Yeah, absolutely. He's picked up a couple of bonus points at this stage of the race. He currently does have the fastest lap of the race. As we see him, yep, by no doubts, he is peeling into pit lane. Does he get it pulled up? Very hard to pull it up here, Hamish, down to 40 kilometres. It feels like walking pace. He does that very well. He's got that car pulled up. He needs to hit his mark. He can't have a mistake, and I'm sure we've all done it where we've overshot our pit, especially on this slippery type of cement on your pit road. Very easy to overshoot it and then have to reverse back the seconds. He cannot afford to bleed at this stage of the races. Crisdale went through. Looks like Doble didn't pit as well, didn't follow him in, Hamish. Dave Arney did. Dave Arney came in. So, yeah, a couple drivers going that little bit longer.
Yeah, so Arney followed in Cesar. Fisher, who's on the same strategy as him, has not pitted just yet, so he's giving up a bit of time now to Crisdale, who's about 5.3 seconds back. Then there's Brad Doble. The important thing now for Hillel Cesar is he gets out in clean air. That's what he wants. He wants clean air when he exits pit lane. He doesn't want to have any traffic ahead of him. He's got 6 seconds up to Tim Mulford. It's very close to Lorne Mackay. Exits pit lane, comes out right ahead of Mackay and Scott McKenzie. And that's probably the best scenario that Cesar could have hoped for. 10 seconds, nearly 11 seconds up to the next car. Clear road ahead. Just has to get the tyres up to temp, and he could possibly chase down this target.
Yeah, that was a very, very close pit exit. You wouldn't want to leave it anymore, and he definitely did not want to be behind Lorne Mackay and Scott McKenzie. So, yeah, absolutely right. Perfect for him. He's got some clear air out in front. A good 10 seconds by the look of it up to Tim Mulford. So he's got to use it now. Crisdale has stayed out. Fisher's out. Doble's out. His other teammate, Randall, has stayed out as well. So some interesting strategies developing. We're within that pit window of that 20 laps. So where do you think drivers going to want 15 laps of fresh tyres, or do you use the tyres now, come in and get them?
Well, I think Cesar, he would have preferred to have come in at 45, but the tyre wear was killing him at that point. I mean, You got to remember he had 5 lap older tyres than Crisdale and Doble as Brad comes into pit lane. Probably a lap too late here, Scotty, because Cesar's just done nearly a full lap on fresh tyres, and he already had a 20-second lead over Doble. He should pass him in pit lane, which should mean then that Cesar has to try and chase down the extra 5 seconds to get past Robert Crisdale on this next stop. It's going to be tight margins, though, for the race lead. Off pit exit, whether it's Crisdale or Cesar, I'm unsure. Only time will tell, and the only time that's going to be answered is when Rob Crisdale comes through pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this stage, obviously Hilal's going to have that overlap, that tyres where he's going to have that overspeed on Crisdale. But you remember, Crisdale's got to come in pit too. He's going to have fresh tyres. So I think that's going to be, I'd say the advantage is in Crisdale, if Crisdale pits within the next sort of 4 or 5 laps. What very interesting here was if Brad Doble had gone for the undercut just a couple of laps early, he would have cleared these 2 cars. Potentially, he could have got himself in front of Hilal Caesar on track. Yes, he would have had a tyre deficit, but he would have had track position. An interesting strategy call there that probably didn't go the way of Shadow Racing.
Well, the issue as well is both Mackenzie and Mackay have taken a 3rd pit stop to get home. So they've already pitted. So Brad's actually behind them on genuine merit for those 2 cars. So they're both in the fight now for a podium. You've also got Dave Arney chasing him down as well. Then there's Reese Degoe 1.6 seconds back. So all these cars are within the fight for a podium finish here this evening. It'll be interesting how it all plays out. And when Rob Crisdale comes into pit lane, where does he end up? Does he remain the race leader, or does he come out in P2? Right now, he's got a 47.5 second gap back to Halil Cesar. The magic number that he needs to stay above is 45 seconds.
Yeah, so that's very close. I just looked at Crisdale's last lap was a 1:55.562. We're just waiting for Lau to go over the line so we can get his lap number to see where he's at. It's gonna be close. I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait and see, because it depends whether Crisdale has saved fuel as well throughout that stint when he was behind those other cars. Hamish, he might not need to take as much.
He might not need to take as much, but the issue is he's always going to have to drop 45 seconds in pit lane. It's a 1:53.83 on that lap for Cesar. So it is a gain of 1.7 seconds over Crisdale. So that time is getting chewed into. It's 46.8 seconds. That is the current gap between the race leader and P6 in Halil Cesar, who has corrected P2 of the race. And I said race leader. The race leader is actually still Damon Fisher, but he'll need to pit either on this lap or the next. Although he can go a little bit longer than Halil could, because he took over 100 litres in his stop. But yeah, that gap is shrinking, and if it gets below 45 seconds, it's going to be nail-bitingly close for Cesar and Crisdale, and who's going to be leading this race to the checkered flag.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and for Damon Fisher as well. He's got to do another pit. He's picked up some bonus points here. His last lap time was a 55.9. He's come into pit lane now. Was that a little bit too late, Hamish? Will that cost him and put him back behind Halal, Lorne, and Scott McKenzie, Brad Doble area? This is going to be an interesting one to play out as well.
It will be very interesting. Shane Randall goes for an extra lap as well. So he's, of course, committed to a 3-stop here tonight, as is Todd Duggan, as is Tim Mulford in P5 at the moment, although he could be in P4 by the time he comes around and gets past Damon Fisher, who should drop below Halil Cesar. It's going to be tantalisingly close tonight here, Scotty.
40. This, Hamish?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to say something about the admin opening up the 100% fuel load. We're at 15 laps from the end, and we're still not sure where drivers are going to come out based on their strategy. So that's a masterstroke by giving these drivers a bigger fuel window, a bigger pit stop window. That's what I'm trying to say, Hamish.
Well, I'd hate to be in the position of anyone, any particular commentator or producer who had to try and mathematically strategize on what was the best choice and best course of action in this race. I'd hate to be in that position. Not that I was, I definitely wasn't in that position, Scotty, where I was having to do maths halfway through to figure out if it was better to come into pit lane under the safety car or not. In the end, I just said, no, it's better to gamble on what we know than gamble what we don't know. And if Crisdale comes in, he was going to get buried. It was the better choice to take the track position because it was a tough track to make passing opportunities at. The next 2 weeks is going to be a very similar scenario in my mind, Scotty. I think Misano is going to be tough to pass at. Okayama is often hard to pass at. Even though you have good passing opportunities, it's easy to defend them.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I was referring to was the pit window was within 2-3 laps prior to them opening it up. So it would have been very easy to predict where everything was going to happen. Well, we still can't predict it, and we're 14 laps from the end. So that's absolutely fantastic. And that's what you want in a bit of racing too, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think the endurance, in quotes, endurance races, because I classify the 250Ks and the 300Ks as both endurance races. I think for both of those races, obviously we start with 80 litres, open them up to 100% fuel tank, or maybe for the 250K races, you open it up to maybe 80 or 90%, Scotty, so you can't take quite as much as what you could in a 300K race, but it still opens up the strategy a little bit more in what you could offer in the pit lanes. It's an interesting thing. Also Pacific Esports number 17, 100% agree with you, Scotty, on that one as well. Rhiannon also pointed out too, not only was it a gamble for one half of the field and gamble for the other, there's also a gamble in the commentary booth as well with you.
It's
Scotty.
a well-used name, mate.
It's a fantastic
you only have to
name.
go down to the Crown Casino, and it is absolutely on tap down there. But I take no offence by using it. It is definitely an iconic name. It's used widely for a lot of things, that's for sure.
It's a real, honestly, Scotty, it's a real race car driver or commentator name, I must say. Like it is. It's you've got a great name for public eye, we'll say that. So it's, a lot better than a very Scottish local Knockhill reporter name of Hamish Munro, I will say that. So,
I can tell you it attracts unwanted attention by a certain few at times too, mate. Don't worry about that.
As Lorne Mackay battles away here with Scott McKenzie, Brad Doble and Dave Arney. The issue now for Brad is he's now caught up in some traffic, and there's 2 cars between him and his championship rival, Halil Cesar. As Lorne Mackay runs it wide, though, it'll be one less car that's between them at this stage. And could he get by Scott McKenzie as well to make it no cars between him and the number 5 up the road from him at this stage? Inside line for turn 14. Couldn't quite get the job done at that stage, Scotty, but Brad is hungry to get onto a possible podium position in this race.
Yeah, he's looking quite racy and has from about halfway or even a little bit before then, when that safety car come out, Hamish. He has looked very, very racy in that Racecraft Shadow Racing car of his. So he's driving exceptionally well. That was some really good driving. They sorted it out. You had McKenzie, there was a bit of pressure on him. Lorne McKee, he was under attack. And you've got Dave Arney in the background and Fisher too, don't forget. They're all within that bunch, and that was really well sorted out between. There's some high-quality driving going on tonight here in Split 2.
There's some really, really top-level driving at this stage here in Split 2 tonight. And Stephen Banks giving us the opposite end of that comment. He'd rather have someone you can bank on than someone you can gamble on, apparently. So, fantastic. But, right on the ball with Brad here, you can just see the smooth inputs that he's putting off in this car. He's been smooth all season, Scotty. It's one of the reasons why he's P2 in the championship at this stage. But what a championship it's been for him. And arguably as well, I think the inclusion of Brad and then obviously Rob down from Split 1 this season, and then also Halil amongst that top 5. And we've obviously got Reece Segoe and Darren Crosby currently up there too. They're different names that we haven't seen for a long time battling for a championship here in Split 2. And it's fantastic to see that we're not getting the old guard as Crisdale comes into pit lane. So now it is crunch time for the number 5 car of Halil Cesar. He has to push. He's 45.4 seconds away from Rob Crisdale. This is going to be as tight as ever on pit exit for Rob Crisdale on whether he will be leading this race come the end of this pit stop cycle. Randall goes on for another lap to get himself an extra point. Duggan continues on. I'm unsure about Mulford, but Cesar right now needs to push if he wants to get the Cooler Master car into P1 on the road.
Yeah, and I have been looking at the times. He was making gains every lap, including this one to Chris Dale's. Chris Dale exit his pit lane. It's a long way off. I don't think he's going to get it done, Hamish, but he is a lot closer than what he was before. So Chris Dale's back up. He'll get up to race pace. It is close. It's under 2 seconds, I believe, potentially. But yeah, it's with Chris Dale's pace, that car between them at the moment in Mulford. Very interesting. I think Chris Dale has got this one if he keeps it on the road.
Well, I want to point out a stat for you, Scotty. So prior to the first pit stops of this race, I believe it was roughly a 10-second gap between Cesar and Crisdale. Through the strategy of staying out under the safety car, Cesar has gained himself 9 seconds to get up within 2 seconds of Rob Crisdale's car. So he may not have taken the race lead from this, but he's put himself in a position where he can now challenge for it as he gets up the inside of Tim Mulford. And now he's got clear road ahead, 1.5 seconds worth of gap, and a chase down to the end of this race. There is 12.5 laps left to go with a bend. Roughly 24 minutes or so for Halil Cesar to chase down a third race win of the season. And it's not only that for him, it's 24 minutes for Rob Crisdale to defend his first win of the season and his first win in over 3 years in the Vets.
Yeah, well, that is something else that may be playing on Rob's mind. He would be well aware of his wins and losses ratio to where he's at, and he would absolutely want this. He wants to make this right. And you're correct in saying that. This has been an absolute masterstroke, in a sense, by Halal to give himself an opportunity. Yes, he's probably not going to get it done. Crisdale's got these newer tyres at the moment. He's going to make gains over the next 5-6 laps before we see a sort of a plateau of tyres equalising together. But, you know, to put yourself up there, to give yourself an opportunity, a chance, that's what it's all about, and that's what he done. So that's been a great strategy, and it was well worth talking about throughout the night because this 100% open fuel on these cars gave these drivers that opportunity to use those bigger alternate strategies. Throw that safety car in there and made it even bigger.
It did indeed, and I got to shout out some of these drivers amongst the top 10 at the moment who have been running very impressive races now, whether that's through their strategy call or whether that's through just some sheer good racing from them. Scott McKenzie up 8 positions at the moment. A solid performance from the Misfits Racing driver. Fantastic effort tonight. Dave Arney remaining inside of the top 10. Lorne Mackay, we saw him have that incident earlier on. He stayed amongst the top 10 as well. Brad Doble's doing well for himself here. Damon Fisher, Reese Tagoe. But then we look at the name of Wade Reynolds in P11 as well. He could maybe take advantage and get a top 10 finish here tonight. For my money at the moment, Scott McKenzie, Wade Reynolds, those two guys have had very impressive nights on the road thus far, and maybe 2 of the 4 names we put forward for driver of the day.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've had a really good drive. You know, they've been in they've been in a bit of traffic. They've given themselves opportunities. They've had to strategize with the safety car, and they've used it to the best of their ability. But you know, and made good gains. 8 positions for Scott McKenzie up into P5. That's a pretty good effort. Pretty good night out so far, Hamish.
It's about to be 9 as Shane Randall comes out of the race lead into pit lane. So Rob Crisdale will retake the race lead with 10 laps to go on the clock. Actually, it might be 11, sorry, because Shane would have started the new lap. So 11 laps left for Rob Crisdale to the checkered flag. 3.8 seconds is the gap back to Halil Cesar. Tim Mulford goes another lap and into P3 on the road, but he does need another pit stop. So currently, Scott McKenzie, corrected order, is on the podium. But Brad Doble wants to make mincemeat of that and get himself up there to try and challenge Halil Cesar a little bit more and minimise the points loss across the night here at Tailem Bend. As Brad Doble, inside line at turn 4, slots it up on, sorry, that was turn 3, on Scott McKenzie and into P4 on the road, but corrected. The Racecraft entry of the 302 Mustang sits P3 at this stage and on the podium.
Yeah, you see the 503 car there. He got just pushed out, which was a brilliant move there by Brad Doble, but it pushed him out onto those marbles that are building up at turn 3. No traction there, Hamish, no grip, and he just had to wait and balance for the car to come back under him before he could get it, and that was where Brad Doble just made massive gains over Scott McKenzie in the 503 car.
Yeah, he did very, very well to get that job done, did Brad Doble in the end, and now looks to chase down 5 seconds roughly, up to about 4.1 seconds, up to Halil Cesar. And he's chase down of P2 and he's chase down of a championship this season, but the clock is ticking on season 24. It is slowly but surely getting closer and closer to the end. 2 rounds left to run after tonight. Only 1 win on the board for Brad Doble. He needs a second win, and it needs to happen arguably next week at Misano, Scotty, if he has any hope of putting some sort of pressure on Halil Cesar into Okayama in the final round. It's fine if he takes the win in Japan, but he needs to beat Halil by a certain amount of positions, and well, the race win next week at Misano, that'll help him along the way a lot better than trying to rely on it in the final round of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to sort of get as close as you can, or extend your point lead leading into that final race. You never know what could happen, as we see a bit of a move by the Pelican coming up here into turn 1. Does he get it done? He doesn't quite get it up there. Perhaps just lacking that little bit of tyre as Law McKee holds on to that position. Who is currently in P6. So that was Dave Oney. He had a really good race. He hasn't lost positions, Hamish. He hasn't gained positions. He's been under attack. He's been in amongst it all race. But Damon Fisher all over him at the moment, currently running P7. He'd be happy with his night out so far.
He would indeed. I mean, Damon's done very good tonight. He's done fairly good for himself over the last few weeks and across this season as well. His internet has been the main mirroring issue at him. He seems to have found some sort of fix. Perhaps that's the fact that there is one less house in Mudgee at the moment using their internet with Brett Fisher overseas. So, you know, maybe there's a point to call between the brothers that because they live in the same town and one more house is using internet on the night of the race, that's why Damon is often disconnecting, and not possibly because he uses a Starlink.
Well, there's also a scenario that would have they'd have a similar friends group, but also perhaps a few others. They might be sending one around to the other's house and having a little play with their internet connection. That's a position gained on track for the other fishing, you know what I'm saying? But who knows what goes on over in that town, mate? I'm not quite sure.
Well, what they do is eat cheese and drink wine in Mudgee, so that's about all I know about Mudgee, if I'm honest with you. So, but Damon doing a top-level effort here tonight for Team AJR. Sits P8 on the road at the moment. Reese DeGoey a bit further back from him. Wade Reynolds now into the top 10 as Tim Mulford enters pit lane. This will now promote Rick Viger up into the top 10 and Robbie Griffiths into P11 on the road tonight as well. Very solid performance from those guys. They'll be looking to remain in Split 2 next season. So it'll be 2 seasons in a row for Robbie Griffiths back here in Split 2, and kind of brings me back to the old days of season 14 and 15 when I first started in the Vets, and Robbie was a mainstay in this series and a championship challenger to boot at that time as well. It'll be good to see him back up and fighting for a championship here in Split 2 in future. And ironically, Todd Duggan in behind him as well. These 3 drivers for a long period of time, Scotty, alongside the likes of Troy Sipple, were, you know, and even Mark Houghton at that time period, were 4 or 5 drivers who were at the front of the field every single season in Split 2, battling for a top 5 finish in the championship.
Yeah, that's quite amazing when you think back on that. And, you know, it was quite some seasons ago. And these guys, well, they are veterans of the V8 Veterans, you know, to be quite honest, to have that many races. But the strength that the league has grown, yes, numbers have dwindled a little bit. Everyone expects that with Gen 3. People move on, people got lives. Yep, we get that. But the mainstay has stayed here, and the strength of the league has grown. The drivers, their ability to race these cars, get their headset around them within their teams and working together. You know, it's a phenomenal thing, and to see some of the quality driving that we've seen tonight, and you mentioned these drivers who were previous championship contenders back around P10, you know, it's a strong field.
It's a very, very strong field. Steph Piccoli in the chat with us. Speaking about at others' houses, I'm at Mick's Clifton's house with Mark Houghton at the moment. So hope you're all having good celebrations at this stage. I would assume it is the after party for Mick Clifton and Beck Clifton's wedding from today. So I hope you're all having a grand old time out there and enjoying the festivities as well, which I can only assume is within a Sydney suburb somewhere, as Lorne Mackay just traverse park the lap traffic there. His teammate Mark Houghton, which I would love to see Mark have a strong season next season, Scotty. He's had some glimpses of fantastic runs thus far in season 24. Season 25, I want to see Mark Houghton get a podium. That's what I want to see, because I think that guy deserves it. He's one of the nicest guys you can talk to in the field. I want to see him do well, and I want to see him on a podium at least one race next season. That's just a personal one from me to Mark Houghton. But Mackenzie at the moment holding off Mark's teammate Lorne Mackay here, with Dave Arney and Damon Fisher in behind them. They've got Brad Doble a few seconds up the road from him as well, as they battle on through. And Halil says he's got about 5 seconds up to the race leader of Rob Crisdale. At this stage, it seems that Halil is happy to give Rob the win, consolidate P2 and consolidate a points gain over Brad Doble in P3, which is probably what the main focus would have been coming into tonight's race here at Tailem Bend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just thinking of something when you were mentioning about the weddings there, Hamish. Have you ever been to a wedding where they haven't had the bottle of sherry out in those little glasses where everyone gets to have it? And there's about 50 of these glasses lined up, generally a very large, almost like a 5 or even a 10-litre bottle of this sherry that no one ever sees anywhere else except for on wedding nights. I wonder whether they had that over at their wedding tonight. It's just about every wedding I can think of that I've ever been in, there's been that large bottle of sherry and everyone's on that for a bit.
Well, the last wedding I went to was about 6 years ago, and we didn't have sherry, we had limoncello, because it was my cousin's wedding and she was getting married into an Italian family, so they had limoncello instead. And I was busy getting into some Johnny Walker Blue Label at the time, which was a fun time, mind you.
Nice.
On the bar tab, thanks, so I didn't have to pay for it. It was a good time. My next wedding I've got coming up in October is a good friend of my partner's. It's a day wedding, so I'm not going to be able to get into it a little bit too much because I've got to be able to drive home that day on Halloween. I am thankful, though. I don't have to deal with any kids coming to knock on my door asking for candy. I get to enjoy wedding festivities instead. So I'll keep an eye out for the big bottle of sherry, though, if it is going to be a main feature of that one. But I half suspect that a big bottle of Jack Daniels may be more of an appropriate decision for that wedding, if I'm honest with you.
Please tell me that wedding is a Halloween-themed wedding.
It's
that
not.
Would be something.
It's not, unfortunately. It's a spring-themed wedding, being in the midst of spring. I did ask, is it going to be Halloween-themed, and I was told no. But I'm looking forward to it. It does mean that I don't get to... Jack Daniels shots at hers probably. So that was confirmed by my partner in the chat. Thank you, Rhiannon. I don't get to broadcast that day, but it'll be nice to have a day off from it and to go out and get to a wedding. So it'll be a good time, I'm sure. But
sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it will be. At the moment, though, we are around about 6.5 laps to the end of this race here this evening, as Rob Crisdale is in complete control of this race. What it will mean is tonight, if they were to finish how they are, he would gain a couple of points over both Doble and Cesar. Importantly, though, he will get his first win of the season, which I've mentioned quite a few times he's been needing this season if he wanted to challenge for the title. And this will be one that will healthily help his championship. Any small mistake that could be made by Halil Cesar or Brad Doble, well, Rob will be hoping that it happens because it will help him out a whole lot more, as Ben Brook and Bruce Tannock have just had an incident at the back of the field further back there, so they get going once again. It will mean that Halil will continue to lead the championship into round 9 next week out at Masano, which will be good for him. I know that his aim at the moment will be continuing to get top 5 finishes, aiming for podiums, and anything less than that, he has claimed, will be a disappointing night on the road. So he's holding himself, Scotty, at a very high caliber at this point of the season. But looking at the season he has ran, could you hold yourself at any lower of a totem pole? Expect nothing but the best if you're going to win the championship. And the season he's had thus far, he's been the best of everyone.
Yeah, I think what these drivers, these three drivers, and we're talking about P1, 2, and 3, they've really maximised what they could get so far out of this track tonight. Yeah, Robert Chrisdale's absolutely been a star. Hillel Caesar, yeah, he's battled for second, but he's maximised his results. So he hasn't lost too much points. He's picked up what I would say is the fastest lap, picked up the bonus point of leading a lap. Does he have the most laps led? I'm
No,
not
that'd
sure
be
for that.
That'd be Chrisdale's at this
Uh,
stage, because he led.
Brad Copeland?
No,
He's
Brad
picked the
hasn't
most-
led a lap either. So, but he's had a strong night into P3.
Yeah, he-
But
Yeah, he's maximised his results tonight too.
yeah,
To give him a chance leading into Mazzano is what I was trying to get at. So I think all three drivers have driven extremely smart, maximising their result they could get out of the track tonight. And if they continue with that, well, that it's going to come down to a back the last two races.
it will indeed. There is an enclosing battle at the moment for P10 as well, as Rick Viger is under mammoth pressure from Robbie Griffiths, Todd Duggan, Shane Randall, and the man of the day, we'll say, Mick Clifton, as they battle away for the final top 10 position of this race. All five of these drivers are long time, well, old time, we'll say, split two drivers, not long time, because Robbie only just came back down from split one this season. Shane came back down from split one back in season 21, so last year. Mick Clifton, I don't believe, has ever been to split one. Todd Duggan's been in split two since roughly season 18 of the Vets. So it's been a fair while since a couple of these drivers have been up to split one. Rick Viger, it's been a fair while since he's been up in split one as well. So all five of these drivers, though, they've been mainstays for a long, long time here in split two. Even when they've been away for a season or two, Scotty, they come back and it's just like, oh, they're back home again. They're back where they you would not necessarily expect them to be, but where you kind of like, it doesn't feel right if they're not in the field, because it feels way too different without them here. But then you're also congratulating them if they ever make it up to split one, whether it's for the first time or for a multiple time in their career. Aside from Mick, all, the four of them, Rick, Robbie, Todd and Shane, have been up to split one at least once in their career in the Vets. They would like to get back there again, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a solid drive by Rick. It's good to see him, at the moment in for a top 10 result as we see a blue flag car doing their best to get out of the way. They've done that the best they could, considering they've got a train of 4, 5, 6 cars behind them. So, yeah, they're doing well to clear that. But a really good drive, a quiet drive by Robbie Griffiths. He's up by 3 positions, putting a lot of pressure on Rick Viger at the moment. But he's driven very, very well. I know you mentioned him being in split one before. He's probably been in and out of form a little bit. But this is a solid drive. This is a drive that would give him a bit of confidence, So he's driving extremely well tonight.
He is driving extremely well, as Matty Stoyles, not the safety car, Matty Stoyles has just ran it wide further back in the circuit. He's just rejoined now. There's also a couple more former split one drivers behind them as Mick Clifton tries to battle with Shane Randall into turn one. Side-by-side action between them. Randall somehow holds the position against Clifton here, and Paul Burns is hot on the heels of them now. I was about to mention both Paul and Matty Scholes are both former split one drivers and are now teammates as well, of course. Paul, a former driver at WK&P Simsports previously. Prior to that was, did he go to WK&P when Troy went there? Because I know they were teammates together for a season or two.
Yeah, he was there for a little bit. And then he moved on. And yeah, so now he's over at SLS, isn't it? Or he's got 801, 801 Sim Racing.
Yeah, over at
His
801.
name.
I still remember the days when Paul was a privateer running the KTM livery back in the season of between the period of season 14 and I think up to season 17 roughly for Paul. So it'd be good to see him get back into winning ways as well. And for Matty Scholes, who, for the early days of my commentary career, had one of the most dominant performances throughout a season when he battled with Mark Poyton for the Split 2 Championship back in season 18 of the Veterans as well. Brad Doble, all of a sudden, though, has got pressure on him for P3. Scott McKenzie has turned the jets on that Misfits racing car and is now hot on the heels of the Racecraft entry of Brad Doble. And look at the pressure that's being applied here, Scotty. One small mistake from Doble will drop him back to P8 because there is only 2.5 seconds between him and Reese DeGoey. 5 positions back from him at this stage. It's maximum pressure and he's got to try and survive it.
he does as they're coming down into turn one. There's a great onboard view here. It's hard on the brakes, Hamish, and he's had a little look up the inside. No, it's not going to open up for him. Tries to hit the apex, get it as close as you can to the curb there, and he's just going to follow him through there. You see that the car in front there, you see Doble just take it a little bit shallow. That'll allow Mackenzie to get on it, but he gets that wheel spin, Hamish, which gives away that advantage that he had. So this is a really backwards and forwards battle these two have got going, and it's exciting up. We've only a few laps left.
Yeah, it's becoming a real tug-of-war scenario in who's going to gain the advantage across the rest of this lap as they battle away. 2.5 laps left to run of Tailem Bend as they run down the fast and flowing section into the braking zone of turn 10. And just trying to keep these cars in check, keep themselves in check, keep the wits about them as well, and make sure that they can try and maximise their performances tonight. Mackenzie driving his best race of the whole season into P4 at the moment. He'd love to make it a P3. And he would love to make it a podium as they run up the hill through turn 12 and down towards 13 and 14 towards the end of this lap as well. But, I mean, we mentioned it, Scotty, the momentum is toing and froing. The tug of war between both these drivers, it's anyone's game between them. And as we said, any small mistake will see them drop outside of the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just see Doble, if he's just a foot or two off from hitting the apex, next thing it's a 10th back to Mackenzie. And you see Mackenzie, he runs in a little bit narrow. That gives a 10th or 2 back to Doble. That's how much and how less you can gain on here. And again, it looks like Mackenzie's going to get the run on the straight, although picks up a little bit of sand, runs it a little bit wide, and they're going to be back at it for another lap. Lap 60 of 61, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a long, long race, and these guys here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As we see Fisher, he pulls out extremely wide. He's showing his true intentions that he wants to get on with.
He does want to get on with it as well. There's been minor contact and off track between Shane Randall and Mick Clifton, I believe, further back in the field. So that's just dropped them down the order, unfortunately. Takes them out of contention for the top 10. We saw them battling away with Rick Viger and Todd Duggan earlier on in proceedings. In fact, Griffiths has now dropped below Todd Duggan here. Great race for Todd. Won driver of the day earlier on in the season at Portland after a phenomenal performance from him. But look at the pressure that is on Brad Doble at the moment. We saw Damon Fisher make a minor mistake there, just lost the rears. That could drop him a position to Reese Degoe. Dave Arney also got past Lorne Mackay on the main straight and up into the top 5. But pressure is starting to build. We know that pressure can create diamonds, but it can also crack glass. And right now, you don't want to be a Swarovski crystal. You want to be a precious diamond just taken out of the ground, because otherwise it's going to blow up in your face. And as they enter up through turn 13, Doble at the moment, I mean, he'll be looking in those mirrors constantly, Scotty, trying to make sure that this Shadow Racing car remains on the podium. Crisdale shortly will be crossing the line to start the final lap of this race. But Brad Doble has got more pressure on him than I think he'd like to at this stage of the race.
Absolutely, it's a lot more than he would like. He would see these cars line up. Oh, he's run it wide, Hamish. He's into the sand.
It's another car off the road at 17, and he's dropped all the way back to P8. That's promoted Scott Mackenzie onto the podium in a fantastic race.
At the worst possible time, as we see here now, Arnie's going to have a look at Mackenzie up the inside. He's close enough, Hamish, to get this done. I think we're going to see another podium change within a lap. Can he hold it on the outside? That misfit car does not want to lose it. Picks up a little bit of curb. Can he rotate it early enough? They're very close racing. And got a little bit of wheel slip there, Hamish. I think he's going to lose that position. Arnie in the Pelican, his supporters over on YouTube, they're going to be going wild. They're going to be throwing their glasses of sherry up in the air.
They will indeed. Dave Arney into an audacious podium as here comes Lorne Mackay, locks the brakes, makes contact with Mackenzie. Degoe would love to take advantage if he could. He can't quite find a roadmap through. Mackenzie remains P4 on the road at this stage. But Rob Crisdale, who has driven a phenomenal race thus far, has only got a couple of corners left to run before he is a race winner once again in V8 Veterans, and would be his first win ever in Split 2. His first win in Vets in over 3 years, the last that came in Season 12, Round 2 at Le Mans in Split 1. after phenomenal circumstances for him on that day back in June of 2022. But in August of 2025, Rob Crisdale will traverse turn 17, the toughest turn on the whole course. Will survive it. Will then run to turn 18 as well. And over 3 years later, almost 1,000 days, Rob Crisdale is a race winner again in the V8 Veterans as he takes the win at Tailem Bend. Halil Cesar will then look to take home P2 on the road, will extend his championship lead, and Dave Arney lands the chopper in third to take home a podium position ahead of Scott McKenzie in an incredible top 5. Lorne Mackay as well, Reese DeGoey, Damon Fisher, Brad Doble crucially comes home in P8 ahead of Wade Reynolds, and then Paul Burns has snuck his way up into the top 10 in a fantastic effort here tonight.
That's a great result. Where did Paul Burns come from? Robbie Griffiths, P11, Masher Scholes up 19 positions, ladies and gentlemen, into P12. Blanchard, something went on with Blanchard. He lost 4 positions, P13. Yeah. Crosby from M1 Racing, P14. Brett Taylor, Shane Randell. He was right up there at the start, dropped 13 positions, found a little bit of contact late in the race, probably compromised him a little. Todd Duggan up 1 position in P17. Mick Clifton, I think that's where the contact came between him and the 501 car. He's lost 12 positions to P18. Rick Viger down 7 into 19. Derek Lovegrove up 4. Good race for Derek. Up into P20.
I think Rick Viger may have ran out of fuel, and that's why he dropped out of the top 10. So I think Rick either ran out of fuel or maybe some contact with Blanchard possibly. I'm unsure. But I think that's what's given Paul Burns the top 10 finish.
I wasn't sure whether Blanchard got a pit lane penalty or something, because he seemed to lose a lot of time to where he was. I'm not sure what happened there, Hamish.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, if I'm honest with you, Scotty, but what a race. What a race it was. 300 Ks, 61 laps. And as I said, after 3.5 years, actually, let's get the exact amount of days, actually.
Days to years. A bit like when Eston played a final. But well done to Robert Chris.
I was slightly wrong. 1,150 days was how long Rob Crisdale had to wait between top step drinks here in the Vets. 1,150 was how long he had to wait for his second race win after 114 race starts. This is 115th and his second win here in V8 Veterans. Unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff. And ironically, Scotty, that first race win probably came very early in his Vets career, because you got to think about how many seasons have been since then. He's had over 100 races now. It was probably within his first 30 races that he took that first win. So it's been a real long wait for him to get the second. Unbelievable. Paul Burns, though, what a drive up to P10 as well. We've got to figure out some Driver of the Day nominations tonight. I think, for my money, Scott McKenzie and Dave Arney deserve a nomination, but I'm leaning towards Dave just because he ended up beating Scott to the podium. Scotty, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I also would add Wade Reynolds into that mix from JWM. I thought that was a great drive by him. You know, they gave themselves equal opportunity. That one by Arnie to get it at the end. Yep, it was a great move by him, but it was also obliged by Scott McKenzie to let him through to hold a top 4 position. What did he make? 9 positions, Hamish, to be inside the top 5.
Yeah, he did.
I think I would like to give that to Scott. It's a great name. I think he deserves a nomination from Brand.
So then the fourth name, do we give it to Cesar for strategizing his way to P2, or do we give it to someone like Paul Burns or Matt Scholes, who managed to make up a solid amount of positions in the race?
I think maybe, you know what I think? I think Burns started out of position. Like, let's be honest, I think he did. I think Scholes did as well. He started dead last, but was he a rear of a grid start, or was there a reason?
No, I just think he just didn't qualify, I believe. I can check. I'll quickly check the license points.
Yeah, an interesting one, that one.
No, he just didn't qualify.
Yeah, so if you don't qualify, should you get driver of the day? That's
That's-
what I'm trying to get.
Yeah, true. Or maybe we give it to Lorne Mackay then. Do we give the nod to Lorne Mackay because that was a good comeback drive. He did finish 5 spots down, but still finished within the top 5.
Yeah, can do. Absolutely.
All right, we'll do that. So driver of the day nominations: Wade Reynolds, Dave Arney, Scott McKenzie, Lorne Mackay. We only want to see one name from you in the votes, please. We'll calculate the votes once we're done with the podium nomination or podium interviews post race. Please get your votes into the chat. Otherwise, you're going to leave the decision up to me and Scotty to make the choice for you. Unfortunately, Dave Arney can't make the broadcast tonight. He was called out late on an emergency job. Hopefully, Dave is staying safe on that one, and hopefully we get to talk to him again soon. Let's start, though, with P2 on the road, the championship leader at this stage in Halil Cesar. Halil, we just cut you off right there with Rob. Do apologise. It's one of my best tricks.
All good.
One of my best tricks, I must admit.
All good, Hamish.
But how does that one feel? P2, obviously, you've given up a race win to Rob now, which gains him a couple of points, but crucially, you gained some important points over Brad Doble, finishing 7 positions ahead of him at the end of that race.
Yeah, g'day everyone and all the viewers. Yeah, it's not too bad. Like as I said last week, all I want to do is concentrate on getting good results. Good qualifying and just try to focus on what's ahead. That's in my control. So I mean, the race sort of panned out really nicely in a way. So P2 was a great result. I mean, Rob was, he was just driving pretty good. So he had the pace to be able to hold P1. Would have liked to have been a bit closer to him before the pit stops, but it is what it is. We shortened the damage out of that result.
Yeah, how you going? Hello. Great to chat to you 2 weeks in a row. I thought
Scott.
tonight was a fantastic drive, a fair bit of strategy into it. Probably started out of position where you didn't want to be. You were out qualified by your teammate who had a blistering qualifying lap. Talk me through that early stages there. You were in P4. There was a little bit of battling going around. Was it about self-preservation and taking the opportunity to push forward if you could? Or what was your thought process? Were you a little worried that you're back further than where you wanted to be in relation to, say, like, Stell?
Yeah. Look, Shane done a great job. I was absolutely stoked for him to be ahead of me. But yeah, that race at the start of the race, just watching Rob disappear into the sunset, I was like, well, it's going to be a hard night to get that back. But with all that said and done, I just tried to focus on keeping the car clean, pointing in the right direction. There was a couple of little moments there in the race at the early part. They gave me a bit of a scare, but just I had to focus on just punching out my numbers. I say that to my teammates every week, is that I try to find a number. That way you're not overdriving the car, and just try to stay around that consistency, a 10th here, a 10th there, and to not drop off too much off that number, because everything comes back to you. So my sole focus will be the same going into the next 2 rounds, minimise my mistakes, but drive to the set number that I like to drive at, that's comfortable without pushing the car too much.
Yeah, well, you've done that absolutely beautifully, Hello, and a credit to you, because you didn't panic when you were under that pressure, and we talked about that early part of the race, and then you found yourself in some clear air. You'd strategized to get there, to get yourself into the lead by not taking that stop. Was there any point that you second-guessed yourself when you've seen perhaps half the field peel in, take that stop? You knew that you were all on a different strategy. At any point at that time during that stint, did you start second-guessing yourself? Did I do the right move or not?
Yeah, no, look, we sort of discussed, as most teammates would do. As I said, like, this year's my first time I've had a teammate in over 5 years in any series that I've ever been a part of. So I wasn't worried as such. It was more like I wanted to get the lead and focus on my restart and try to gap the field and build consistent laps around those, mid 54s, not much into the 55s, and just solely focus on that as much as the car would allow me to have with the tyres that we had under us. So I was driving shallower through certain corners, but able to still keep the pace up. So I really wasn't focused on that too much, because I knew that the worst we would get would be a podium of some sort. Like, I don't know where would if it would have been P2 or P3 as such. P1 was there, as you've seen. Like, wasn't much left in that last 14, 15 laps to go when he came in and did his stop. So if things would have been a little bit different, I might have, I still reckon he would have passed me, because I personally, when I came out, the car had a lot of grip. So you've seen I did the 53s on the restart. So the tyres are great for the first 3 or 4 laps, and then you can manage that tyre throughout the stint. So Rob would have always got where he got. So no, we weren't really too focused too much other than just get a podium.
Yeah, I think you drove it absolutely beautifully, and that was an incredible restart, by the way. You recognised the field was spread and went early, and yeah, absolutely worked in your favour. Well done to that. Great drive tonight, mate. Leading into Mazzano. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I just saying to Rob before, I haven't done any that I can remember of any laps. I do sort of know the track, being a motorsport kind of person, but yeah, look, I just solely focused on a good result again. I will be putting in a lot of time. 2 rounds to go. When you get this close to a championship offering, you got to take it with both hands. So my sole focus will be to finish inside the top 5. I've seemed to manage a lot of top 10s and a lot of inside top 5s. So that would be my goal.
Yeah, that's a good goal, especially where your position in the championship and leading into that final round at Okayama. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thank? And, from both Hamish and myself, congratulations on your P2 tonight. That was driven absolutely beautifully. Strategized yourself there, and was a really good, strong showing.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, title sponsors, the Racecraft, and basically the vets. The organisers through vets, and all the drivers that we have in all the splits. Infinity Broadcast, Blackheart Designs, WD40. I stuffed that up for some reason. Motorsports Parts Australia, iRacing World Challenge, VRS, and also my major sponsors, Caller Master. Thank you, Tony. Hope you're watching this broadcast. If not, watching a replay of it soon. Hopefully bring this title home for you, mate. And Mark Wadham Mechanical, and also Lachlan out there. So thanks, guys, and thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks so much, Halil. Congratulations on your P2 here tonight. Best of luck next week out at Mazzano. We look forward to seeing how you go.
Thanks, Hamish. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, mate. You too. A phenomenal race from Halil Cesar. Another podium to his name, another top 5. That is now 7 top 5s in a row for him this season, Scotty, and multiple podiums to his name as well. 2 wins to boot. He's got to feel pretty good now going into Mazzano next week.
Yeah, that was a very strong showing tonight. He didn't quite have the pace. He didn't quite qualify where he wanted to, but he had the maturity to hold his position, make gains where he could, strategize himself towards the front, and make the most of it while he could. Yeah, very strong showing, and that's what you got to do if you've got eyes on the championship, which clearly he does, and he's thinking about it, and he's driving towards it.
I can mention before we bring in Rob Crisdale, we did have a conversation prior to the race start, knowing where they qualified, that if we got to the position where it was a 1-2 scenario and Shane was ahead of Halil, we were actually going to favour Shane, so he got his first win of this of his career in vets. So even though we were focused on the championship, we also thought, well, we could give him one. But
no multi-21 there.
No multi-21. Just let him get his first win. P2 would have been good enough for Halil in that scenario because he would have beaten those who we needed to beat. So, but it didn't come down that way. The way it went down was Frog Leap Juice Racing's Rob Crisdale had his strongest race of the whole season. Rob, congratulations. P1 on the road tonight. First win in Split 2 this season and your first win in 1,150 days here in the Vets. Your last win was back in Season 12 in Round 2 out at Le Mans. You've now managed to do it on home soil here at Tailem Bend, and probably at the most crucial time you could have hoped for it this season in Round 8.
Thanks very much, and thanks for making me feel so old, Hamish. Jeez, I didn't realise it was that long.
I specifically did the maths of how many days it's been since that date of that race, but I did surmise with Scott, because there's no stats prior to Season 12 on Sim Racer Hub. That, knowing of how many races you've done, which is about 114, 10 races per season. It's been over 10 seasons since then. Maybe give or take a couple of rounds, you might have been away. That was probably your first season of vets, was it, if not your second?
That race was, I think, as Scott alluded to, was the biggest fuel save race of all time, I think. And I think I conked it out halfway through the final chicane and just somehow managed to win that one. So I think I fluked it somehow. But anyway, that was that one. And here we are, all these days later, and this is number 2. So no, it certainly came at a good time. As I said to you, and you've alluded to, I need to get this one ticked off the box. So I've got it ticked off. I've gained probably a little bit on Brad from that point of view, not so much on Halil, but 2 to go. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's I don't want to put the mocker on Halil, but it's all for him to lose and us to gain.
Well, you won it. You won it this week with 2 rounds to go. If you hadn't have won tonight, it's only 2 rounds left. You could possibly win. Obviously, as I said at the start of the season, you'd need two wins to win the title. You've opened it up now where you've got 2 rounds to win one more race and try and really close the gap. I mean, and as I said, if you didn't win tonight, it was going to be a lot harder for you over the next 2 weeks. So you've probably eased it a little bit more for yourself now, even though you only gained a few points over Halil. The next 2 weeks now, you've got a little bit less pressure on you than you would have if you hadn't have won today.
Yeah, that's right. And I've just got to keep the head down. Just keep driving to the lap and the numbers. Basically, definitely finish in the top 5. Where don't want to be finished outside of the top 5. I think all 3 of us have got that goal. Yeah, I mean, Hela's been driving a fantastic series so far, so it's going to be tough, but well, he's been going. So, but all we can do is just keep the pressure on, and one bad race potentially by him, who knows? Anything's possible. So,
well, Misano next week. Just quickly, Rob, it's a tough track, obviously, much tighter, more of a GT style of track. Does that suit your driving style, just like the Bend seemed to, or is it going to be more of a struggle for you next week, do you think?
No, I think it'll suit my style. I was just saying hello off air that I've done a few laps here in the GT car already, and also on Automobilista before this, so I sort of know the track pretty well. It's more of what I said to you before. It's one of those open European style tracks that tends to suit my style. So I did sort of 10 or 15 laps yesterday. So yeah, I think I'll go okay so far. So we'll see how we go.
I did want to say, Rob, like with the way that you're driving, and congratulations, by the way, it was an absolute dominant performance. You drove extremely well. What's going on over at Juiced Racing? We see Mark Point. He's driving extremely well at the moment. Are you working together, you guys, and working on something to bring these juice cars forward like you have at the moment?
A little bit, yeah. Here and there we are. We probably could do more, to be honest. But we are, Mark and I sort of have a bit of a synergy together. So he sort of feeds off me and a bit of my knowledge, I guess, or I guess you can say semi-experience in the vets before he come along. So in terms of strategy, and because it's obviously been in Split 1 where I used to be, Scott, that's always about strategy for me. So to be from P30 or P25, so to gain any spots, it's always strategy from there. So so I've sort of passed that on a little bit to Mark, but for me, I guess dropping to Split 2 was a bit of a kick in the ass, so to speak, to get my act together, and because I have spent 80% of my time GT racing, and as you know, going from a GT car to a V8 supercar week in, week out is a tough gig to try and get your head around. So that's where probably a lot of my speed disappears, and I probably find myself thinking that I'm going to be faster than I am in a V8 supercar, and then wondering where all the pace has gone. But it's all because of the right foot in the GT car. It lets you get away with a few things that you can't get in a V8 supercar. So
yeah, we are working absolutely beautifully together, and there has been a growing pace, a growing trend of these juice cars, and they're both pushing forward. And that's a congratulations to you and the team, and I look forward to perhaps you continuing. You've got 2 more races, and then you're going to reach your goal. get back into split one, join Mark up there. So well done tonight, mate. You drove absolutely beautifully, and great to see you get your second win. I still remember that other win quite well, actually, now that we were talking about it. But yeah, well done tonight, mate. This was a dominant performance and thoroughly deserving win by yourself.
Something must have been in the air, Scott, because Carlton had a win this week too. So
I know, right? They beat Port. How good was that? Don't tell Brenton, though.
But anyway, not that made anything for us for Carlton this year, but this win does. So there you go. So.
Well, Rob, a fantastic performance from you once again tonight. Good points gain over the championship leader and Brad Doble as well. Get you that little bit closer leading into Bassano next week. Let us know anyone you want to give a shout out to, anyone who may be watching along at home or any sponsors for the team. For myself and Scotty and everyone here at the Vets, congrats on this long-awaited win. I'm sure that simulated champagne tasted just as sweet as it did 1,000 days ago.
I have to go and get a bowl of sherry, I think. Got to put all the cherry in the brain for all of us. The shout out to V8 Vets team and crew that put on a fantastic series to really become one of the dominant forces across Australia. So that's a fantastic job by them, to Simsports and you guys at Infinity, and you, Hamish, and everybody else who gets the advertising out there for the series and puts it out there, not only here in Australia, but I do know people overseas watch it, so that's good, and all the sponsors that go with it. As far as our team concerned, Juiced Energy, as always, John Lee at Racecraft Simulations here in Perth, because I'm in Perth, so shout out to him. Südspeed Gloves and Stock Hall. So thank you to you guys, and hopefully it's not over another 1,000 days since to the next one. So
well, from a commentator's perspective, Rob, hopefully for you it's only 7 days between wins. As the team owner of the driver who's leading the championship, I hope it's at least 30 days until your next win when you're in Split 1 next season. But no, but congratulations, fantastic effort. I'm so looking forward to this battle, not only as a broadcaster but as a commentator but as a team owner as well. It's exciting to finally be in a championship fight for Split 2 after broadcasting it for so long. So I wish you the best of luck. I wish Brad the best of luck as well, and I'm excited to see how this plays out at season's end.
No worries, thank you.
No
hopefully
worries.
speaking next week.
Well, you've got festivities next week. You've already told me about. I'm going to tell Scotty about them off air,
well, actually, I do, yes.
But hopefully we're chatting to you in 2 weeks' time out at Okayama. Probably talk to you anyway as a possible top 3 finisher at the end of the season, but best of luck in the next 2 weeks. We look forward to seeing how you go.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a very weird position to be in, Scott, for me personally right now.
Well, I was going to say, and I think I know what you're about to talk about, because I was just about to say the same thing. Being a team owner, having 2 cars that you had today start in the top 5, where really, you've broadcasted, this has been a bit of a passion for you for quite some time. You really haven't had such a strong showing from your team supporting you like they have done. Over the recent season or two. You've got drivers in Split 1 now. You've got them rising up in Split 2. I'm not sure how they're going in Split 3. I think every now and then they pop up for some good performances as well. So you must be very proud of the way they're going and the way the drivers are going, and that, as a team owner yourself and you supporting their abilities and being positive for them. So, there's a lot going on. I wonder how, is that how you're feeling? Is that what you're saying? It makes it very difficult for you?
It's more or less like, so there's a couple of things to do with that. It's a full circle moment. Obviously, this is my 11th season as a commentator, Scott, in the series, and I took over the team. I was a team member prior to that moment, and I was still a team member when I started, but I wasn't the owner at that stage. I took over the team roughly in season 16, so about 2 seasons later. But it's a full circle moment because I've never had the opportunity to call a season where one of my drivers is in contention for the championship. We've had it before with Shane, where he was in contention to go up into Split 1, of course, when he finished in the top 5 many moons ago. So there was that opportunity, obviously, where he then, I got to see him go up a split and into Split 1. But it's the first time I actually get to call a championship where one of my drivers could possibly win it. I try and stay as unbiased as I possibly can whenever I broadcast as well. It's one of the things that I try and pride myself on. I try not to show any bias to my team, and it eats away at me sometimes when I'm showing Halil or Shane's car from the perspective of, oh, this guy owns this team, he's showing off his own drivers, but it's, they're battling for a race win, and I'm trying to show off the action when I can. It's not only full circle for that moment as well. It's the fact that as a team, we've got on to win Split 4 2 seasons ago, Split 3 last season, and I thought this season that Ray was going to come into Split 2, and I thought, well, we could definitely challenge for Split 2 with him. Then, of course, picking up Halil as well. That was going to make us even stronger. And then he went straight to Split 1, and I thought, are we going to be able to challenge for it? And then, obviously, Halil stepped up, and he's driven his best season by far to date in Vets, and he's challenging for this championship. So it's full circle for that moment of going 3 seasons in a row, going up the totem pole of 4 to 3 to 2. I don't know if we're going to be able to challenge Jordan Ross next season in Split 1 or yourself, Scotty. But, even if we possibly see a podium next season for the first time from the team in Split 1, that'll be a good performance as well. In terms of Split 3, James Boardman sits P3 in the championship at the moment, but he is going to miss the last 2 rounds. Unfortunately, probably not going to challenge for that championship and not going to challenge for a top 5. So if we go back to 3 splits next season, that would benefit us because it will mean that James likely through the pub test would come up to Split 2, but that's a wishing well that you dip your hand in. But yeah, I mean, it's an odd scenario to be in personally for me, to pull back the curtain. It's an odd scenario. It's one that I'm welcoming because it means that my team could finally win Split 2, but no matter who wins, if it's Halil, if it's Brad, if it's Rob, all 3 of them have driven a fantastic season. And, as I said with the issue that happened, with the incident that happened with Shane and Brad, that's not how I want us to go racing. It's not how I want us to challenge for the championship. I want it to be as fair as possible. And if Brad goes on to win, congratulations to Brad. If Rob goes on to win, congratulations to him. If Halil goes on to win, congratulations to him. So it's a tight championship. It's as tight as it's ever been. The last 2 seasons have been as tight as ever. Obviously, we needed Logan Barnett to spread things out 2 seasons ago for us to get 2 of the closest seasons in history, 2 seasons in a row. But, I'm excited for the next 2 rounds. It's going to be a fun time. And next time out at Misano is going to be a fantastic opportunity for us to go racing for the first time out at that circuit. It's a circuit that I said for a long time I felt should have been on iRacing. We finally got it, and now we finally get to go racing there in the Vets.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I would say, and I'm pretty sure what's left in the chat would agree with me, that the team Infinity Motorsports has been a silent achiever. There was a lull period there when we look back a few seasons back where there wasn't really much happening. You had a few people leave or injuries evolve or things happen in your team. But since then, you've really gone about, the team as a whole has gone about, it's recruited some drivers, it's built on their driver base that they already had, perhaps got some training, and looked inside to grow outside. And it's a credit to them because they've gone about it quietly and what I would say the silent achievers. And when you look back, you've had great results now over the last 2 seasons, and you're in for great results as a team again this season. So, 3 seasons in a row, and I think there's, a credit to you. And I would say that your driver in Split 1, he's got a championship winning wheel. You bring Halal up there, who knows? They could work together and make things happen. So some good potential, some good signs for Infinity Motorsports on the horizons, ladies and gentlemen. And you should be very proud of where you've come from, especially from a few seasons back, Hamish. It's a credit to you, credit to the team, and a credit to the drivers for making.
Well, thank you so much, Scotty. Really appreciate it. There is one thing that I nearly forgot tonight, and that is our Driver of the Day award. Now, I have figured out, before we sign off tonight, the driver who is winning it this evening, and it is going the way of the Pelican himself, Dave Arney, for finishing on the podium this evening. So congratulations to Dave. He takes home the Driver of the Day award in a fantastic effort. And yeah, just a breakthrough performance from him. Solid race in the end. I think maybe if Scott McKenzie had just pipped him to P3, he might have edged it out. But Dave with a solid performance and undoubtedly deserved the Driver of the Day award in the end here this evening out at Tail and Bend. But next week, as I said, we go racing out at Misano. Looking forward to it, Scotty. It's going to be a great race once again. Best of luck to you in Split 1. Massive thank you to you for joining me the last 2 weeks here in the broadcast booth for the Split 2 action. It'll be myself and Brett Fisher once again next week in the booth for the final 2 rounds of the season. A massive shout out goes to all the series sponsors, Racekraft Simulations, the title sponsors, as well as Logitech G, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, Nova Simsports, Südspeed Gloves, LGC Images, and Chubby Buns Burgers for the Driver of the Day award, which tonight went the way of Dave Arney of Pacific Esports Racing. Massive congratulations to Dave on that effort once again. If you're watching over on the Infinity Broadcasting channel here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe, the bell icon as well, so you're notified whenever we go racing on the channel. Next up on the docket, Monday evening, myself and Brenton O'Brien in the booth for the final round of the IRWC VRS Virtual Racing School Porsche Cup Series for Season 2 out at Belle Isle. That there is going to be a phenomenal performance and a phenomenal race, as Simon Mazzomo looks to go 2 seasons in a row as the champion, but Sam Muir looks to challenge him as the current championship leader. Then after that, Friday night, we go racing with Rod Knock Cup action once again out at Echo Park in Atlanta. And then Saturday evening at 8:30 p.m, we'll be back right here for Season 24 action of the V8 Veterans Round 9 at Misano. If you're watching on the V8 Veterans channel, hit the like button, the subscribe, the bell icon as well, so you're notified whenever we go racing here to give support to the Split 2 action, Split 3 action, and the Split 4 action as well across the weekend. Next weekend, Split 4 will be happening on Sunday night, as John Venry is not available on the Friday night. I'm unsure if Split 3 will be happening on Friday night or if it will be remaining on Saturday night. You'll keep an ear and an eye out on the broadcast info channel in the Discord so you are aware of when that broadcast is happening. Go and support Simspeed TV as well to watch the Split 1 action live. You can watch Scott Gamble race live there every single week as he tries to challenge and topple the mountain that is Jordan Ross at this stage of the season. But I'm in Hamish Munro with Scott Gamble alongside. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here with us once again for the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans Split 2 action of Season 24, Round 8 out at Tail and Bend. And until next time, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
Can't wait to hear those engines roar. Hot days and summer nights, finish line in the sights. Can't wait to hear those engines roar. There'll be sparks flying, rubber burning, doors banging, temperatures rising. Can't wait to hear those engines roar. There'll be hot days and summer nights, finish line in the sights. Can't wait to hear those engines roar. There'll be sparks flying, rubber burning, doors banging, temperatures rising. Can't wait to hear those engines roar. They're gonna roll. Ooh, they're gonna roll.
The Racing Series is a new milestone in Logitech G.
All the great old wheels, the G29, the G920, the G923, they all have their own unique way of connecting to each other, but there's no room for expansion with those products.
So the question arose was, what if we were to give the opportunity for the racer to switch out from a drifting wheel to a GT rim?
With the wheel hubs that we've created, that's got a very specific button set, but you can replace any of the steering wheels.
And the real lovely aspect to this was we could give the user, driver and the racer the opportunity to experience different genres of race.
That allows drivers to craft high quality, customized setups that resonate with your individual racing style.
When we start with the design, we always start sketching. Very often, once we've got sketches, we start discussing with engineering.
We had 3 rounds of engineering testing or user testing where we invited in users from sim racing, and every single round of feedback we refine, the product based on what they tell us.
In this sim racing lab, again, we're going to use data to really analyze what a driver needs. We've used everything from eye tracking to the inputs from the pedals, the inputs from the, let's just say, input devices, the wheel and the pedals, the shifter. We're taking that and we're compiling it so that we can build different products based on those individuals' needs for all consumers and all drivers.
I don't know of anyone else in the industry that's actually doing this kind of research into their products to see how their products are affecting performance of their users.
We've built the product to make sure that it's as reliable as possible.
So the innovations in engineering that I'd say we're most proud of is the sequential handbrake and shifter toolless changeover. This is now a patented system, so it's really easy for the user to just switch between modes.
If you give people the tools to do what they want, they will.
They will just go off and have fun.
Introducing the Rackraft PT1, custom-built full chassis racing simulator. The design project, codenamed The Cage, an 80/40 extrusion chassis sitting on top of a Sigma Integrale DK2 Plus 4-point full motion actuator system. No compromises in the cockpit of the PT1 simulator. To maximize the experience, we start with a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor for the greatest field of view in a small footprint of the simulator, down to the SimuCube wheelbase that's tucked up and behind the monitors with SimCore extensions to get things out of the driving area. Everything is connected to a Cube Controls GTX steering wheel with the built-in dash and all the extra button functions available at your fingertips. Driving through the Raceworks S1 pedals, the potentiometer throttle and the 2 hydraulic pedals for brake and clutch ensures you maximize the feel underfoot, and seating yourself into an OMP HTER bucket racing seat with OMP belts connected to a G-belt tensioner to provide that extra feeling and the heightened experience while you're driving. Additional interfaces and accessories in the PT1, we have twin butt kickers, one on either side of the OMP seat, as well as a Jinx sequential shifter, the SimPush Race Logic timer to the left-hand side, a Racecraft built-in WinSim kit with Philips Hue lighting and a built-in soundbar, plus the OMP side net to finish off the experience in the PT1. The Racecraft PT1, build number 1, the ultimate in sim racing experience, combining the best products in the market with the passionate, no-compromise approach that goes beyond racing simulation.